Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. You are watching Session 5 of Provokers Bleakwrath, which is entitled Deurgen's Testament. We're going to find out what that means here later on. I am joined, as always, by four of my very favorite role players and very favorite people in the world. And we're going to get rolling here and do introductions during the break. I'm actually going to go ahead and pass it off to my good friend Barker, who's going to help us out by doing a quick recap of what you missed last time on the Provokers Bleakwrath. So Barker, go ahead, man.
Awesome. So even maybe you didn't see some earlier sessions as well, so I'm going to go a little bit further back. But basically, this story is one about our four characters who were kind of thrust into this pact with each other upon an attack in Falhast in Accordance Square. It was a freedom fighter named Casimir Strongsong, a freedom fighter of Gavalt, who attacked. But after a lot of different paths and twists and turns, we found that this object that Sander, Nate's character, is holding is kind of a centerpiece of the overall campaign, because Casimir had the ability to open up or create a massive bleak storm, or open up a portal which allowed through a bleak storm. But using this relic, Sander was able to close the bleak storm. After that, after Casimir had his head split open by Edrick in one of the most round character moments I think I've seen in a game of D&D, in a trial by combat, awesome, we end up kind of making this pact with Casimir's sister. We're betrayed by the Blood Guard. That's my own people, Holly's own people. We actually have to go work a little in the shadows to find out who this mysterious character is known as Bronze Eyes. And Bronze Eyes, in finding out who this person is, we are at odds and clashing with a faction called the Clerisy. We have attempted to interrogate members of the Clerisy. They are a very interesting faction. They actually wore, in our altercation with them, they wore the same clothes as Kristoff Stormraven, which is an interesting thing to note. But the most interesting thing is that after the fight, after everything kind of died down, we had one prisoner. We were hunkered down in this amphitheater, this old kind of Senate chambers area, and it was abandoned. And we begin to interrogate this person from the Clerisy, and almost immediately this person just starts writhing in agony, and they start bleeding from every orifice in their face, basically, before they just die. And we're not entirely sure why that happened, but I hope that we find out in this session.
Thank you so much, Barker. Go ahead and give yourself a point of inspiration. And that was, I don't have anything to add. That was absolutely perfect. So, the four of you and Baron are standing over the corpse of this officer of the Clerisy. He's garbed in these sort of rich, nicely maintained leathers, the same leathers that Kristoff wears, though his are a little bit more worn, a little bit less taken care of. Blood streams from his eyes, his nose, his ears, his mouth, and he's already begun to grow pale and rigid. You see behind you the second prisoner that you dragged with you into this room. That prisoner, too, bleeding from their face. And if you kneel down to check their pulse, they're quite dead. The building that you're in, it's long abandoned. You see that indeed it's some sort of council chambers. It's an odd sort of space. You see the remains of tables and chairs. You see ratty tapestries hanging on the walls. And at one end of this room, there's a crumbling shrine, this sort of altar with these large sort of flanking horn shapes rising up above it. you see that this shrine may have once been quite garish with gemstones and different decorations, but they've long been pried loose by burglars. The room smells of dust and old incense. You feel like trespassers, and quite literally you are, but it gives you an odd feeling being here, like you're a stranger in somebody else's home. As you sit in silence, looking over this corpse, trying to take in everything that's just happened, you hear shouts from outside as the Blood Guard begins searching buildings, looking for the people involved in the altercation. Christoph, what are you doing as all of this is happening?
Considering my options, trying to figure out why this person is here. You use the example that this is similar to being in someone's home when they're not there. And to me, in the same way, it's like running into someone who you know from somewhere else and worlds colliding. And so, as we try to interrogate this person, my questions are only just beginning. I've gotten no real answers. And so I think Christoph would be nervous. And in that moment, that sort of cold, warm feeling of nervousness streaks across me as I realize for the first time that my friends are probably wondering the same. Maybe are they thinking, I was a part of this? Are they thinking that I know this person and I'm not letting on, and so I'm not sure how to respond?
What about you, Edrick?
I'm nervously looking around. I'm trying to figure out what is happening. I'm beginning to panic. I'm beginning to be really quite concerned. Well, what are we going to do, Mr. Christoph? I didn't see no arrow or no dart go in him. Was he poisoned, maybe? I mean, you don't think it was magic, do you?
No. Nah, it wasn't magic. No, it was probably something else that could get into his body invisibly and make him bleed from everywhere.
Oh, I certainly wouldn't want to see that then, nor experience it. Wait, you're having a go at me, aren't you, Mr. Christoph?
I'm having a reasonable go at you, yes.
Oh,
and
right.
This was definitely magic, and I don't know who did it.
Well, you're a magicker. I mean, couldn't you do what you do and try and figure out where it came from or something?
Holly would be looking at Christoph's clothes, and that when she speaks up and says, or maybe he knows something else.
Sander speaks up and says, mainly directed at Christoph, could it not have been poison? I don't know anything of it, but it's a thought.
Maybe. I mean, it was so sudden, and it was just a lot. Do you know of a poison in this area, any of you, who that could act so quickly and horribly?
Perhaps we should save the solving of this mystery for a more opportune time.
Or at least do it indoors.
Indeed.
In different doors.
Edrick. Stay calm. We're going to be okay here. Nothing to worry about.
But what are we going to do with them? I mean, what if a blood guard comes and they're going to be cross with us and well, with Baron here, and we unthreatened them and kind of hurt him a bit, and what if we go to jail or get arrested or get arrested and then go to jail or something? I don't want. Well, this never happened to the real Provokers.
As you're sort of talking, Edrick, you see lamplight shine through the slats of the boards covering up the windows, and you hear raised voices outside. You hear boots on the cobblestone as the Blood Guard approach. And then there's a banging sound from behind you near the back of the building, and you see some of the boards covering the back door being kicked in, and a figure stepping inside the doorway. What did the four of you do?
Holly would say, kind of having everyone immediately be quiet to see if we can't gain advantageous positions to figure out what this thing or person is. Like she'll like look to Kristoff and motion towards the back door or something like that. She'll like give some baseball signals, steal second, go, bunt, Kristoff, and then whack him over the head.
He sees these fake gestures, and he's like shaking his hands, like, "Come on, seriously, come on." He might even say, like, "Come on, seriously," but he doesn't.
Sander would probably try to hide. I mean, just as soon as he hears this banging, just skip away and try to gain some sort of vantage point where he can't be seen, but could still be of service if needed.
I will probably ready my weapon and kind of move just out of sight so I can basically get like a quick strike in as soon as whoever it is comes in through the door.
And I would look at Baron before I left, and I'm like, "You be very quiet."
And Baron is already kneeling down. His hands are still bound, and he's sort of has his back to this old chair. And he's still kind of looking wide-eyed at the clerisy officer on the ground with the blood coming out of his face. And when you get his attention and you tell him to be quiet, he just kind of nods sort of absently at you. The figure kicks a few more boards loose and steps inside. You see it's a humanoid figure kind of garbed in a cloak, and he steps into the light that's filtering through the slats, the boards on the front of the building. And you see as he draws his hood back that it's a face you know. It's an older man, graying hair, withered face. And as he brushes his cloak aside, you see he only has one arm. He scans very quickly the building and notices the two corpses on the floor, and immediately reaches with his good arm and loosens a short sword in its scabbard at his belt. He calls out, "Is anyone in here?"
I think I throw long. Go ahead, Edrick.
I was just going to look to everyone else, and I kind of have my weapon kind of over my head to just kind of give a quick thrust, but I start looking at everyone else. I start leaning over just a bit, and I'll probably look straight at Holly for confirmation to attack.
Holly shakes her head like, no. And she'll step out of the shadow into, like, I don't know, a beam of moonlight or something, and her hands are up as she's looking at this old man, and she'll say, "No need for that."
As soon as Emery Suresteel sees you, Holly, he takes his hand off of his sword and eases out a breath. "Good. Are the others with you?"
She'd look around to her surroundings and wait for everyone else to kind of reveal themselves.
Not quite sure who the others are, but I'm here. I'd step out from the shadow.
Yes, and Edrick and Kristoff as well.
Indeed, yes. Who are you?
I'm Emery Suresteel. We met very, very briefly following the attack on Accordant Square. I'm liaison to the convocation here in Falhast. I've come to get you. If we're going to avoid detection, we need to move quickly.
Yes, and kind of some recognition now as he steps into the light a little. Well, let's move then. We are in need of hastiness, I believe.
And Kristoff would, I think he would take that moment to step not that he was in the shadows, but he was that kid hiding by doing this. Like, so he kind of just like, and he's, what do you mean avoid detection? You don't sound like the kind of liaison that's liaison on what you normally would liaison.
And as you're speaking to him, Emery has kind of strode up to the bodies on the floor, and he kneels, grunting as he does so, and sort of looking over the bodies, shaking his head. And he looks up at you, Kristoff, and he goes, "You know as well as I do that not all clerisy members wear uniforms. The Blood Guard, they are not without fault. If you are found out to have killed these clerisy members, there will be trouble. We need to get you someplace safe. You four have attracted a lot of unwanted attention these last few days."
Agreed. And I trust you.
He kind of has this troubled look on his face as he's looking at the bodies. "How did these two die? There's no obvious wounds."
Well, Mr. Emery, we was talking to him, and then they started bleeding from bits where they're not supposed to be bleeding from, and then their eyes rolled up in the back of their heads, and then they hit the ground, and well, that was it.
I see. Emery has the look of a man who knows more than he wants to say as you tell him this, Edrick. He stands, pulls his cloak back over his frame, and then looks at the four of you plus Baron and says, "We need to move. I have a safe place we can go, but we need to move quickly, quietly. Come, follow me." And he kind of turns and goes back out that back door that he kicked the boards in on.
Holly turns and asks Kristoff primarily, "Are we really following the stranger into the night?"
Yeah. I got a good feeling about him.
"Good enough for me," she says, deadpan and cynically, stepping out the back and following him with everyone else.
And Sander looks at Edrick and he says, "Where the wind blows," and motions toward the direction they're going.
Well, I'm not staying here by myself. And I just kind of hold on to my poleaxe and just kind of begin to kind of slink as much as a huge kid can slink, wearing chainmail and other loud dangly bits. So just like pots kind of clanking a little bit, and just the pss, 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 pss of chainmail, and then just walking through. So
The four of you plus Baron head out that back door, following Emery Suresteel into the night. He's fairly quick and lithe for a man of his age, especially one with only one arm. But he leads you down some back alleys, across a few back roads. Occasionally, a troop of Blood Guard charge past with lanterns, shining them in windows, and you all have to crouch behind crates and barrels in alleyways to avoid them. But Emery leads you out of the Gold Quarter, out of the market section of Falhast, across Accordance Square, where you see the destruction from Casimir's attack. It was just a few days ago, but it seems like a lifetime ago to you, looking back before the four of you knew each other, before you were embroiled in this conflict that has taken hold. You see the statue of the Provokers kind of tilting off balance, pieces of them falling off, the paint from graffiti spilled across them. You charge across the square and enter the Brass Quarter, where the Geyer Archives is located. Emery leads you down a few more alleyways. You stop a few more times, and eventually the sounds of the Blood Guard die down as you leave the Gold Quarter behind. Emery seems to relax a bit, sticks to the main roads, walks surely, but not as swiftly as before. You see the Geyer Archives, that strange spiraling building soaring up over the skyline of Falhast. Emery leads you down these roads, and as you're walking, he sort of turns and says, "I am glad to see the four of you safe. When I had heard what had happened, I feared the worst. You managed to close the Bleak Storm."
All
Is this
eyes on
true?
Sander.
Yes, it was quite something. Never seen anything like it myself. But anyway,
How did you achieve such a feat?
well, it was the relic I carried, and I motioned to Kristoff. I do not do well with arcane magic or whatever it was. I gave it to Kristoff for safekeeping. I figured it might be more useful in his hands, but it did all the work. I don't know what it is. Very valuable, apparently.
Very valuable indeed. You are likely already being hunted for that relic. You know this, yes?
There's been some interest already.
Keep it very close. Okay, this is where I'm taking you. And he sort of like, in between two buildings, there's this stairway that leads down, sort of like a basement pub sort of situation. He leads you down these stairs, and he knocks 3 times heavily on this big oaken door. A slat opens up and then closes, and the door creaks open, and Emery ushers all of you in as he, too, steps inside the doorway.
I would follow, sort of pretending that I wasn't peering around suspiciously, playing it off as best I can.
And as you enter, you see that it's sort of this long hallway, and the door closes behind you, and there's a older human man sort of sitting there behind the door. And at first, you're not sure why he's sitting, and then you see that there are these wheels on either side of the chair, and he's sort of sitting in this mobile wheelchair of sorts. He has this kind of crazy head of red hair streaked with white, and these tools in a bandolier across his chest, and these strange goggles kind of over his eyes. Emery reaches out his good arm and clasps this man's hand and says, "Sige, thank you for hosting us. I understand this puts you in danger." And the man says, "It is no danger. Do not worry. I am happy to help. Come, there's more space inside." And he begins wheeling himself down the hallway, Emery staying close behind him.
I would continue to follow. And at this point, now I'm engrossed, especially after Emery sort of asked about the relic, which I have on me. If I weren't the first, I would be shoulder to shoulder with whoever was at this point. Now curious and sort of plodding forward with a purpose, though I don't know it.
And you follow down this hallway, and it soon opens up into this large workshop of sorts. You see tools and parts everywhere. Every surface is cluttered with schematics and half-eaten plates of food. You see diagrams written on the walls in chalk. You see that there are like sails and diagrams of different animal wings that are spread out across in large poster form. And you see on one of these tables, taking up the entire table, is this gigantic black cat. It is like the size of a lion or a tiger, but it looks like a house cat. And it's just sort of sprawled out on this table. And as you enter, it sort of stretches a little bit and sits up and sort of sits on the table watching you as you enter. The thing that immediately catches all of your attentions, though, as you enter and you sort of scan across, is the fact that there appears to be a large sailing ship hanging from the ceiling. It's probably like a 10 to 12 crew member sort of ship, not quite a warship or a galleon of any kind, but maybe about the size of a carrack. And you can see that it's not really hanging, it's kind of floating there. And you see that lashed to the sides of this thing are 4 large pieces of rock covered with moss, vines hanging off of them. And the ship appears to be tethered to these floating rocks, and it's just sort of bobbing up and down softly in the middle of the room, not supported by anything other than those floating rocks. The man known as Sige kind of rolls underneath the ship, spins himself around, and has this look on his face, waiting for somebody to react to this thing that he has in his workshop.
I think the first thing that I would do upon walking into this room is instinctively I would probably grab Sander by his collar and kind of drag him behind me, seeing this 350-pound American short hair just kind of sitting on this table. Like, now you be careful, Mr. Sander. You might think you're a mouse. He's quite big, he is. And then I'll just kind of hold my pole axe kind of off to the side. No, don't you worry, I'll protect you.
And Sander is kind of laughing, but he's also just in awe of his surroundings right now so much that he's just kind of like, yes, yes, yes. Just kind of wide-eyed, and he has a big goofy smile on his face, just, taking it all in here. What is going on?
Holly is face to face with this massive cat who in its stretch has you heard maybe the table it was on just creak as if it was going to, the legs would snap and it would fall. And so she's just kind of gazing at this thing.
And I think as Kristoff walks by that, seeing Holly and this cat face to face, without looking, he says, "Huh, wonder which one's more moody."
Emery, sort of shaking his head, looking up at the ship. It's come a long way. Very impressive, Sige. Not even hung by chains anymore. Sige says, yes, I'm quite proud. I've managed to stabilize the levitation. But who are your friends, Emery? And Emery says, oh, my apologies. Sige, this is Kristoff, Sander, Edrick, and Holly. And when he says Holly, Sige kind of looks up and he just kind of shakes his head like, don't say anything. And he kind of points to Baron too, and he says, that one I'm not familiar with, but given the fact that his hands are bound, I have a feeling he's not with them. And Sige says, well, it is a pleasure to meet all of you. My name is Sige Espano. I'm a flight engineer here in the guilds of Falhast. It is a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, it is this is a wonder. Fascinating.
Oh, thank you. It is it has been my sole obsession these last 2 decades, ever since I saw the Provokers fly out into the desert on my swoop gliders. This has been my goal. This has been my dream. We are so close to achieving it.
Is this something Holly might have been aware of, just being a local? Is this something she might know anything about?
So you might actually know of Sige Espano because he is notorious with the Coin Guild here in Falhast, which your father is the head of, constantly asking for more funding for his sort of harebrained schemes. Most people consider him to be a bit of an eccentric and not capable of actually creating things anymore. He hasn't created anything in about 20 years.
Then I think Holly would be, her eyes would move to the ship, and she would be surprised to see something like this under a roof in Falhast.
How does it is those are rocks? What's
Pieces of the Wandering Isles. On loan from Viator. That's what makes it work. You can put buildings on the Wandering Isles. I thought, why not put a ship on them?
so you've lashed floating rocks to the ship?
Yes. Stabilized with skier stones tied to the elemental plane of air. The same skier stones that I used in my prototype swoop gliders. In fact, the skier stones in this ship are the same skier stones that the Provokers wore on that day 20 years ago. Yes, they are very much a part of this project. In fact, Sable, and the cat kind of like is yawning, and its ears kind of twitch hearing its name. Sable, that thing right next to you, and the cat's kind of looking. Bring that over here. Bring it over here. Bring the scroll case over here. And the cat, with its paw, kind of bats the scroll case off the table. He's like, "Oh, that's okay. That's pretty close. That's pretty good." And he rolls over and grabs the scroll case and pops it open, and this parchment kind of falls out. And he sort of like hands it to whoever wants it, just whoever's close. He hands it off to them. Here, read this.
And Kristoff would sort of look around and like read it out loud.
Yes, just just this is the genesis of the project. This is what helped me complete it. So just read it.
Sure. Sounds good.
And the parchment is kind of scrawled messily with this sort of uneven hand, almost like the person who wrote it has thumbs for fingers. Why don't you go ahead and read that, Tim?
Sige, it's been some time. You helped us beat the Corruptor all those years ago. And I'll never forget your flying machines. And as much as you helped us on that day, I'm asking for your help again. Something stirs. I can feel it in my bones. Something is coming. I'm not sure exactly what, but we're going to need your machine. Yeah, a bigger machine. Something that can get us across the whole of Erenoth quickly as your gliders. Things are changing fast. Whatever the Arendelle did that day, we're still hearing the echoes of it. I've enclosed 3 skier stones. The ones you gave to us on that day. Mine, of course. But I also tracked down Erdon. He was in the Highlands, if you can believe it. He was looking for his dad. And Brasswick founded some hermitage up in the hills. He's living in a damn cave. After all his belly aching about being underground. Guess he really was afraid of heights. I couldn't find Dice. Truth is, I haven't seen him since we walked out into Sunnegeist. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm getting older. I hope these 3 scare stones will be enough for you to finish your project. I'll be off now. I've got a lead that I need to follow. It may be some time before you hear from me. In the meantime, I implore you, and I ask you, from the bottom of my frozen stone-ripped heart, please, finish your machine, whatever it takes. And by all the gods, Tritherion most, let's hope we don't need to use it. Sincerely yours, Deurgen Blood Mountain. P.S. If a purple-eyed elf comes to you for help, turn him away and be careful. He's not to be trusted under any circumstances. I also miss your ale.
And as you finish reading it, and all of you are kind of looking over Kristoff's shoulder reading this letter, Sige has like popped the cork on a bottle of ale and is taking a drink as you read that part, and kind of like self-consciously puts the cork back in and tucks it into his wheelchair. Better see, it's from Deurgen himself, from the Wandering King. He sent me the Skier Stones I needed to, well, almost complete my project. What do you make of that?
Sander actually glances over at Edrick, knowing how much he's always talking about the Provokers. Looking for a reaction.
I'm staring right at the parchment, just listening to Kristoff talk, but just looking at the parchment, just in awe. Mr. Kristoff, can I see that?
Yeah. And he just kind of hands it to him. There you go.
And just in my kind of like fairly large, meaty hands, I'm just holding on to this parchment, like just so delicately. Wow. Wow. Deurgen Blood Mountain wrote this. How awesome is that? I don't even know what he says. But except I do, because you said the words, but wow. Oh, I suppose you want it back. Well, here. I just kind of hand it back, and with a little bit of resistance there when you kind of take it back. But right, well, certainly was fascinating.
I don't want this. It was Sige. Actually, Sige, let me ask you a question.
Of course.
How important is this letter to you personally? Like the actual paper, now that you know what it says?
Well, I hadn't really thought of that. I guess it was just a... Well, it said it's kind of like a testament, isn't it? It's something important. It's what kicked off finishing this project. But I mean, I would say that it's no more important to me than any of the other pieces of paper in here.
Yeah, a testament. I like that. I like where your head's at, man. So here's the thing. My buddy here, he wants that letter so bad, and he'd never admit it to you. And so I would actually take it. And if Sige would, I'm kind of looking at him like, I don't fold it or anything. And I just, without looking, I hand it to Edrick. I kind of like pass it back. Like, just take it. I just hand it over like it's no big deal.
No matter what, I would look straight at Sige. And I'd hold out my hand. It's kind of like when you do catch your cat trying to knock something off the table with its paw, and you're staring right, and it's looking right at you, but its paw is still kind of moving things right to the edge, like, don't you do it. And it's just kind of like about to tip the thing over. So I'll kind of look, and I'll kind of slowly start putting it in my jacket, and then stop, and then kind of like watch his eyes, and then right then. Well, no, I'm going to put this in my pack. It's too important to put on me. And I'll get my pack off. I haven't even waited for CA to say anything. It's nope, this is going in my pack. I'm going to find some cellophane, and I'm going to wrap it in cellophane, and maybe have a backer on it, and then maybe never touch it. You only use tweezers that have been like properly sterilized. And
CA's like, do you want the bag and the board for that?
oh, yes, please.
I was just thinking that.
I hear it's a first edition.
You better get that thing graded.
Yeah. So Seagate doesn't really say anything. He just kind of smiles a little bit as you tuck the parchment away. He pops the cork on the bottle of ale and takes another swig, and then says, "Consider it consider it the way for us to kick off a potentially lucrative relationship, because that's why you've come here. Why Emery brought you here. Yes, it's a safe space, but well, there's other things too." And he kind of looks up at Emery, and Emery, well, we can discuss this now, or you four can rest, and we can discuss it in the morning. It has been a long day.
I'm never too tired for lucrative.
Well, if you're up for it, then yes, let's have the discussion. Please, take a seat. And he kind of like looks around, realizing that there's not a single chair without like stacks of paper and like weird trinkets and tools on it. He just kind of goes and kind of lowers himself like onto the stairs that are kind of leading up to the leva ship. He just kind of sinks down into the stairs, adjusting his cloak. He takes the belt off of his the sword belt off of his waist and sets the short sword aside. The four of you, well, you're capable of quite a lot. You're the first people to have closed a bleak storm in, well, since the days of Eris the Reclaimer, 2,000 years ago. It's quite a feat. And there are more storms. We've received reports that there is a storm off the coast of Aldemir. One larger and more virulent than the one that was under Falhast. And there's word of more in the north as well. I fear that the walls between this world and any multitude of other worlds that are out there have been irrevocably weakened. On Accordance Day, we thought the Corruptor had failed. And he had, because if he had succeeded, we wouldn't be here right now. Erenoth would not be here. But he didn't fail either. As Deurgen's letter said, we're still hearing the echoes of the Corruptor's actions that day. And he didn't open the door, but he left it unlocked. And now, 20 years later, someone's turning the knob. We can't let that door open. Does what I'm saying make sense to you?
Holly's face kind of lightens up a little bit, or brightens up a little bit, as with some sort of recognition, because she remembers being in the Geyer archives and seeing this doorway, known as the Whispering Door, speak to her and no one else, saying the gate must stay shut. And she, for a moment, recalls that and even asks about it and asks if the two things are linked. So she explains what happened at the Geyer Archives for the first time since it happened.
A voice. Those doorways have been silent for some time. But it could be that the weakening walls between this plane and the Bleak, well, it could have affected the doorways as well. I think that they're absolutely connected, Holly. Thank you for bringing that up. That will require some... Well, we'll have to look into that, certainly.
She nods, but still looks puzzled.
This ship that Seagay has constructed, it was intended for the Provokers. Should we ever need them again. But as Deurgen's letter said, he followed a lead. That was years ago. No one has heard from Dice in 20 years. Erdon, he's in the north somewhere. And Brasswick's a hermit. The Provokers aren't here, and we can't wait for them. The fact that you four were brought together by the Bleak itself. I'm not a big believer in fate, but come on. I realize what I'm asking you is quite a lot. But if we were to complete the Levis ship, you could use it to help people. You could use it to stop the Bleak from bleeding into this world. And Falhast is... He kind of looks directly at Holly. There's nothing for you here. Not anymore. You've done all you can.
Sander would turn to his companions and say, I think that Emery is right here. I think we must do this. We must help in what way we can. What do you say? And I would probably mostly be looking at Kristoff here.
It sounds right, but it feels wrong. Don't get me wrong. Everything in the fate, and I'm just not a big believer. So I'm here for a reason. I'm here because I need to find something for my family. And yeah, I wear this, but I don't wear this because I want to wear this. I wear this because my actual family doesn't want me. But I need to do something for my brother. And I can't, I'm here for a reason. And I can't just leave that reason because it feels like I'm running away again. And I won't want to. I won't run away again. Because the last time I ran away and put these on, looking for something, my brother was murdered. He was killed. And I wasn't there. Because of running away, doing things like this. I can't go on another path again.
Emery is quiet for a moment. He kind of rubs his temples. A long time ago, I went down a road similar to what you're saying, and I thought it was the right course of action. In return, I lost my arm, I lost my griffin, and I lost a brother. So I understand where you're coming from, Christoph. If you choose this path, you will not do it alone. And I can promise you that I will do everything in my power, limited though it may be, to see that justice is done on behalf of your brother. This I swear to you.
Swear it on your good arm.
I swear it's on my only arm.
All right. Like always, I don't really have any other choice.
No, you have a choice. You all have a choice. This is not conscription. If you choose to do this, you are doing so voluntarily. Just as the Provokers did 20 years ago in The Wayward Wanderer when they decided to go help Brooke. This is the jumping off point. This is the cliff, and there's no telling what's at the bottom. But it helps to have a flying ship if you're going to jump off of a cliff.
And Christoph looks at Holly, and he takes in everything that Emery is saying. But he looks at Holly, and he looks past the Holly that's on the exterior, and he looks into the Holly that has shown herself maybe twice. And he says, "Are you in?"
She looks to Kristoff and after a long moment says, "I've got some vacation time I can put it in for."
Works for me. I could use vacation.
Well, excellent. I was afraid I was going to have Edrick knock you two out and throw you in the boat.
And at the mention of my name, I just got the cat, and I'm just rubbing the cat's face. Oh, what was that? Are we going yet? Oh, you're not such a bad kitty, are you? No, you're not. No, you're not. And just rubbing the face. Just listen to this like low staccato machine gun purr that's just coming off the cat.
Yeah, it's just like a chainsaw purr, and it like flops over on the table, knocking a bunch of stuff over, and like is just rubbing all over your hand, getting some good pets. And Seagay is like, "Sable, be careful!" Oh, see, and just like potion bottles are falling off the table as it's rolling around. I should mention, this is very important. I do have the 3 skitter stones from the Provokers that Deurgen gave me, but I need a 4th skitter stone. In order for this ship to stay aloft and be able to go in all directions and be able to go up and go down, we need 4 skitter stones. So, and he kind of looks at Emery, and Emery says, "So your first mission is to find a 4th skitter stone. But that can wait until morning. For now, you should rest. You deserve it. And there's kind of this moment of silence after he says this, and then someone clears their throat. And Baron is kind of standing in the doorway with his hands bound. So am I included in any of this, or like, am I part of this thing? Am I getting on the ship? Or and Emery's like, I'm sorry, who are you? It's good. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I'm good. And he kind of looks at Holly and says, I'm not involved in this anymore, Rast. I did my bidding. Can I go?
She looks at him and she nods, and she says, do what you can to ensure I get some extra weeks. And she, as in like some extra time off for people to not ask questions about where she is. And she winks at him because she knows that he's still a little bit under their thumb from their outing him as a scoundrel.
He says, yeah, I'll cover for you. You're still on special assignment anyway. I just won't tell him you've left the city in a flying boat.
Thank you.
And as the four of you sort of get makeshift bedding here in Seagay's workshop, we're going to take a quick break for bathroom drinks and pizza, what have you. So when we come back, we're going to do introductions and stuff. But for now, everyone stick around. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We've got about 80 people watching, which is awesome. So stick around. We will be right back.
Pfft. 1992 called, and they said they want their... Oh, hold on, I have call waiting. Boop. Hello? It's the year 2047. Oh, I was just talking to the 80s. I was getting in the 90s. I was going to make a joke about the... There's no time for that. I'm calling because I need you to tune into the Provokers, Season 9, Colossus from Russia. Okay, how do I do that from the past? Well, the first thing you need to do is get hot and ready. They are the president of the United States now. They'll tell you everything you need to do. Okay, bye.
Hello, everyone. Looks like I'm the first one back. I'm enjoying some hot and ready. I got a hot and ready earlier, and I'm still snacking on it. I got some crazy bread too.
Yeah.
Crazy bread.
Mm.
Crazy bread really is crazy, man.
It is crazy.
Like you
It
eat it,
fulfills the title.
you're like, man, this is crazy.
You start like having big ideas about science,
Mm-hmm.
and then your hair grows out, and
For me,
it's all staticky.
For me, it's sort of like it's like a Cthulhu type situation. I'm like losing sanity as I'm eating crazy bread. Like I'm literally going crazy.
The gun, the boom, and you start like speaking in tongues.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I join a cult. You know, the usual.
By the Reeboks, by the sweats,
Yep.
the
Yep.
Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
With you. Great Scott. Yes, that's exactly who I was thinking of, was Doc Brown.
Marty, we gotta do something about your kids, Marty.
1.21 gigawatts.
We gotta go back to the future, Marty.
Morty. Come on. Morty. That's all I can do. Rick and Morty voice. I can just go, Morty. Morty. That's
basically
my
all I
Rick
can do, too.
impression. Yeah. I just
gotta
like
throw in a
try to
burp.
make myself throw up. Yeah. And while gagging, you say the word Morty
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
in
it.
between gags. Yep. Morty.
I have never seen that show.
It is a delight.
I always said, that's not, you don't have to watch it, until I watched it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this show is like secretly, it's hiding the fact that it's the most brilliant thing ever. It's hiding that fact. It's like hiding behind this thin veil of comedy and curtain of cartoon scenery.
So true. All right. Sounds like Nate is having some kid issues. No worries. We can take a couple questions while we're sitting here hanging out. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. For anybody, for me, any of the provokers.
Can I tell? There's going to be a game this month on the 17th. The Lore Keepers. I get to play in Rob Coletta's Lore Keepers game on his channel, Performance Check, which is awesome because I love that character. His name is Card Kilgannon, and he's like got an accent that I can never quite get. It's like a mixture between The Revenant and Cash Me Outside Girl. Is where I'm hovering around with his accent.
See, I've heard the character plenty because I watched those games, but I never knew the font of inspiration from which you drew.
No, see, that's interesting. I did not. That's not the well. That right there. That was an accident. I stumbled across it. Half of the words Card says are just gibberish. I'm just basically making noise with my face, and it just became. Card, cash me outside.
Card, cash me.
No, I actually really love it.
Here's a good question.
Locris is in it. A bunch of people.
Dude, it's a great campaign. I love that campaign. Prella has a good question. Other than hot and ready, is what are the provokers' favorite snacks?
$20 worth of Taco Bell.
I eat just $20. I'll just eat money. I'll just eat the $20 because it's
$20
healthier
bill
than the
directly.
Taco Bell.
Yep.
Actually, no, it's arguably healthier because there could be anything on that 20. But that
That's
Taco
true.
Bell, I trust. I trust Taco Bell
Wow.
to be precisely what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I'm a fast food junkie. I don't eat it, but maybe once a week now. But it's my favorite. So if I had to say, like, oh, what other snacks? Seriously, you give me $20 and I could spend all of it and eat all of the McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Burger King, all of those.
If you're
Chips and salsa.
if anyone is interested in hearing Tim and I talk about fast food for near 90 minutes, you can look up Rodimus Prime on Podbean. We're also on iTunes. We have a podcast that we do. We've done 2 episodes so far. The first episode was about fast food. And the the second episode was about heavy metal. So definitely check that out.
Dude, you just said if anyone would like to listen to us talk about fast food for 90 minutes was your opening sales pitch. And you're going to get like a bunch of people over there listening like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to hear.
Yes, absolutely.
You won't be wrong if you make that choice, by the way. You'll be like, I'm not sure. And then 5 minutes in, you'll be like, I'm happy I made this choice for my life.
And Barker, did you say chips and salsa? Was that your answer?
Chips and salsa is I jump from thing to thing. Like I'll have like
I do too.
like tacos for a while. I was just like, I just need to eat tacos all the time from a very specific restaurant. But
Right.
recently it's been chips and salsa.
That's like I get on kicks where I'm like, my snack will be like goldfish crackers, and I'll just like eat goldfish crackers every day for like 2 weeks, and then I never want goldfish crackers ever again. And I'll get on a new kick for my snacks. So.
And like 2.5 years later, you're going to see a big wholesale carton of goldfish crackers, and you're going to be like, I could go there again.
You're like, I could get back on that train. I hopped off that train, but I could get back on it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I could go there again.
My big thing for a while was I would get like a cheese cracker of some kind, like a Cheez-It or something like that, and I would do a little bit of cream cheese on there. And I would just sit on the couch. This was when I was skinny too. I would do, maybe that's why I'm not anymore. I would do like cheese crackers and a little thing of cream cheese, and I'd have my little knife and I'd do a little smear of cream cheese on the cheese cracker and eat that. And I just sit there and watch Dragon Ball Z. It was awesome. It's like my favorite. I don't do that anymore though.
How old were you?
This was, let's see, I was
26.
He was like, no, this was last Tuesday, Tim.
Yeah, this was last week. No, let's see, I was graduated from college, but I was still, let's see, so I would have been 23 or 24.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched DBZ. Haven't.
What the hell, man?
I know.
I graduated from college, but I was still a lazy loafer.
I was still a load eating cream cheese Cheez-Its in my parents' house, watching Dragon Ball Z on DVD.
Got the life. That's what Korn's "Got the Life" song is all about.
Is that image is just
Cream cheese on the cracker.
Actually, one of the best snacks that I've ever made was, and if anyone wants to like look at this again, right, you can write this down. Take 2 cans of chili. Just a smaller, like 2 smaller cans of chili, 1 regular, like 1 mild, 1 like dynamite hot, super hot. And then you take yourself a brick of cream cheese. You get yourself a bowl, you crack open both cans, you pop them in this microwave safe bowl, you take the cream cheese, you cut it up into small pieces, and then you just mix it all in with the chili. You stick that in the microwave for 5 minutes, pull it out, stir it up, put it back in for 3 minutes. It should be like this nice kind of like a lightish red, aka pink, kind of a thing. Pull it out, grab your Tostito, dip it in there, eat it, and it is to die for. It is probably one of the best chili snack dip thing. Pink slime. It's absolutely wonderful. Like you will eat this and you will say, "Wow, Mike was actually right about something for one."
Dude, that sounds awesome. I just want to say that I really, really appreciate the amount of detail that you went into with that. And yes. I also want to say that, like, I thought it was going to take a dark turn here and you'd be like, and I just eat it with a spoon. I just eat it right out of the bowl with a spoon.
Trust me, it is so good. It is so good. You will probably do that. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. You dip dip chips in there.
Man.
It makes a
awesome.
great chili cheese
dip your face into it.
Dip your face into it.
Go bobbing for apples.
I call it pink. I call it pink regret.
Yep. Right. Oh, you will.
That was my favorite part. Is that light red has an alias? You're like, yeah, it's light red, aka pink. You're like running it through the color database.
The proper color is aggressive salmon. It is wonderful. You will love it.
Yeah, aggressive salmon. Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan. Recently, my thing is Costco makes this spinach artichoke dip. It's like in a plastic tub, and it's basically cream cheese, spinach, artichoke. Like you know what it is, and it's got cheese and stuff in there too. I get that, and I get a bag of their pita chips, and I do the pita chips with the spinach artichoke dip. Oh, it's so good. It's really, really good.
What's your pita
What about
chip?
you, Nate? What's your like go-to snack?
Well, I was just gonna say we just got something that's like Greek yogurt jalapeno dip from Costco in a big tub, and that is so good. Have that with like
so good.
even like Ritz crackers, anything will do.
Yeah,
But like, man, some tortilla chips or some like nice crackers, that's what's really good. Oh,
dude,
man.
that sounds awesome. I love anything that's like creamy cool with spicy. So like a Greek yogurt jalapeno dip is like my jam, because I love, like, one of my favorite things to do is just like dip spicy things in sour cream, because I love that like spicy heat with that cool creamy like juxtaposition. It's just like, oh, it's my favorite.
And wrap it up in phyllo pastry, and we are good to go.
Yeah, wrap it up in phyllo, fry it, you're good. Awesome. All right, you guys ready to go out to Taco Bell now and get some food, and then we'll come back and play some D&D?
That sounds good.
Yeah, half an hour, 40 minutes. Are we?
All right.
All right.
Yeah, let's pile into the car and make it happen. So let's go ahead and do quick introductions, since we didn't do that at the beginning of the session. Just introduce yourselves, introduce your characters, and then we'll get right back into the D&D action. So we'll go from my right to left. We'll start with Tim.
What's going on, guys? I am Tim, and I'm part of the channel Tabletop Terrors. Check it out if you like just getting better at D&D and getting some D&D inspiration. We have a lot of fun over there. I'm playing Christoph Stormraven, a druid who doesn't really have a lot in touch with his druidic roots, and is figuring that out as he goes through the world trying to get revenge for his brother who has died. All right, Nate.
My name is Nate, and I run the YouTube channel WASD20, and I'm playing Sander Denara, who is a halfling monk from the Sonageist Desert, a member of the Order of the Unscorched. And yeah, it's great to be back at it here with you guys.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike. I run the channel Mike the Piper, which is in the description below. I do a lot of different things on my channel, because I'm trying to kind of find out that kind of one place that I really want to be at. But yeah, go have a look if you want to. I'm playing Edrick Meadows, who is a big, young, strapping kid from Aldemir. He wants to be a soldier. Mostly he wants to be a hero, just like his idols, the Provokers, the original Provokers. And I think he's beginning to see things in a far, far different light on what reality is versus what the romanticism of what the Provokers have become. So very, very much looking to see where he goes from there.
Awesome. All right, and last but certainly not least, Barker.
Hi guys, my name is Barker. I run the old video storage facility over at beabettergamemaster.com. But pretty soon, I want you to keep your eyes and ears open for some new content. I'm going to get back to doing guided creativity stuff, and I'm really, really excited about it. I'm taking a note of inspiration from Tabletop Terrors and their ability to behave as functioning adults and release videos on time. So one thing I want to say about Holly is that she is becoming an exercise in deciding which apples fall closer to the tree than others. And my old character is her biological dad, not biological dad, sorry, stepdad. And she doesn't know that. And it's just kind of deciding what parts of being raised from this person would kind of fall to Holly. And so far, I kind of like the idea that they both, in effort to figure out what the hell they wanted to do, they both joined the guard or something, and then that ended somehow ending up it sent them on their adventure separately. So either way, I'm playing Holly. She rocks with the crossbow.
Awesome. All right. Oh, and then he just dropped. He was like, "She rocks with the crossbow. Done. I'm out of here."
Drops the mic and
I'm
just
out.
Microphone drop. Done. Deuces. No.
Before we get going, I also want to say my kids are acting like, I don't know if it's full moon, but it is in this house. So if I have to step out for a little while, that's why.
You're like, I don't know what the actual moon is doing, but the moon of my family is full tonight.
Exactly.
And it is a
If
super
they're
moon.
werewolves. Make sure they're not wearing jeans.
Yeah.
No, make sure they are, so this stays PG. But no, that same thing for me. If Nate's kids misbehave, I gotta get going.
They're screaming.
All right. So the four of you, fairly exhausted at this point. Emery and Seagay sort of gather up, blankets and pillows, and you sort of just find whatever corner you can to sleep in. Sander, I imagine that you like scoot two chairs together and like sleep because it's like a perfect little halfling cot. And everyone just kind of picks a space to sleep in. You sleep through the night, and as dawn breaks and light sort of filters through the grimy, sort of soot-stained basement windows that are up high on the ceiling, Kristoff, you're actually the first to wake up. And as you wake up and kind of roll over, you feel the ache of having slept on the floor sort of eck into your muscles. You roll over and you see that there's a short, gnomish man who is speaking to Emery quietly, sort of in the doorway. And it takes you a little bit as you're sort of waking up and coming out of sleep, but you realize that it's Tome from the Geyer Archives. And he's sort of speaking in hushed tones with Emery. And you hear the words Kristoff's cipher come out of Tome's mouth.
And I, as the drool sort of is running off, and I imagine that there is some chalk on my face in the shape of like a dragon's wing or something, and just paper stuck to my sweaty neck. It's a mess. Some cat hair. It's just, that's what it's like sleeping on the floor in this place, no doubt. And so just that.
I'm actually going to add on, like, as you wake up and roll over, you realize that there's that Sable, that gigantic house cat, is kind of like half draped across your body. And this thing weighs like 75 pounds. It's just like a person laying on top of you.
And I do that sort of thing where anyone who's had pets understands that that's kind of the rules. That's the relationship you're getting into, is this animal is going to sleep on you, near you, and under you as often as possible. So it's that sort of like just the shrug, like, yeah, I mean, like, what did I expect? And so I sort of see Kriplin, and Kristoff doesn't like brush Sable off. He kind of tries to slide and let her sleep, and sort of sit up, rub my eyes. I think I think you owe me a translation. I think my ears are burning.
And as you sort of wake up and say that, both Tome and Emery look over and see you, and Emery kind of nods and wanders away, and Tome comes over to where you're sort of sleeping, and he's sort of like not making you get up from your little like sleeping area. He sort of kneels down and sort of crosses his legs, and he has a couple of books in his lap, and he sort of leans forward and he says, first things first, you have the Iron Stones, the ones that Casimir stole from the Geyer Archives. Part of the deal was that you would return the Iron Stones, and then I will share with you the cipher.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I got them. I got them. Yep. We. Yep.
I can't remember who actually had them on on them, but we can say that they're kind of rolling around in your pack, Kristoff.
Perfect.
And Kriplin kind of leans forward, and you see that one of the books he has is your brother's journal, the one that you've been carrying around, and the other one he has is one that you've never seen before. And he kind of opens both of them up. The cipher was incredibly difficult to break. Your brother was very brilliant. the cipher changes depending on where the symbol is on the page, so it's very, very time consuming. But what I have done is I have translated a small portion and also included instructions so that you can continue translating the book at your leisure. That is as much as I can offer you at this time. But the portions that I have translated, they're very interesting. I will leave these with you if you give me the iron stones, and then I will be on my way.
Yeah. He sort of grabs them, and they have the clatter of smooth stones, just that. And he sort of hands them over.
Oh, he takes some pink rhomboid, scarlet sphere, turquoise cube. Okay, they are all here. Thank you. Not only are these powerful magical artifacts, but they are very important pieces of history. They belong to Algrim Emberhand. He created magic as we know it today. Thank you for rescuing these artifacts from the hand of a madman who would undoubtedly have used them for nefarious purposes. And he sort of very carefully rolls them up individually in little cloths and tucks them very carefully into his little satchel. He hands the 2 books over to you, your brother's journal and the codex for the cipher. The codex is complicated. It will likely take you a day or more in order to translate a single page. But the more that you translate, the easier it will come. Your brother had some interesting thoughts. I suggest you read through them and learn what you can about his mission. Thank you for your help, Christoph. It will not be forgotten. And if you or your 3 friends here ever need anything, you know where to find me.
Thanks.
You're welcome. He stands up. Oh, well, I have to go continue cleaning up the Gaia archives from where's the break-in. Good luck on whatever it is you're doing. And he kind of you see his eyes stray to the floating ship, and they kind of widen as if he's just now noticed it. Right. Well, I will be on my way then. Good morning. And he kind of saunters off down the hallway, leaving you the only one awake still.
And Christoph sitting there, he's afraid to look at the books. Truly. And so having the answers that he wants, he puts the book into his pack, both of them, sort of just sits there waiting for the others to wake up, petting Sable.
Who would be the next one awake, most likely?
I would assume Holly, because the pain from her wound from the fight the night before, the day before, that Sander might have patched up, is just disturbing her, and she sits up and kind of makes some sort of grumbling noises and kicks to her right, where you see Edrick laying, and she kind of kicks his legs to wake him up, seeing that it's clearly beyond time.
And I wake up with a start. No, I don't want to milk the cows today. Oh, what's cool? And he starts kind of picking out that one piece of fur on his tongue, like that one cat hair. Did I eat that big cat last night? Is it time? Oh, Mr. Sander. And I just kind of tap Sander awake.
Sander has his eyes closed still. He's breathing heavily. And he just says, I hear cat hair It's very high in fiber.
Oh, is that true? Huh.
And he opens his eyes and says, no, it's not. I suppose it's time to get going, though.
Oh. Okay.
Emery enters the room, and he's got a big platter of mugs of tea just steaming away. And he sort of sets it on the floor, sort of equidistant between all of you, and lowers himself into a chair, scooting a bunch of parchment off of it. You all slept well, I hope. Well as you could have, I suppose.
We thank you very much for letting us rest here.
Better that than you rot away in a jail cell somewhere while you wait for whatever it was that was going to happen to you. I trust Captain Task implicitly, but some of the other officers I'm not so sure about. And I'm sure Christoph can tell you the tendrils of the clerisy, they're very far-reaching. And they have a lot of resources, a lot of leverage. As I was saying, it's no longer safe for you four here in Falhast, especially with the relic you're carrying. The skier stone, the final one for the Levis ship. Sige thinks there may be some skier stones out in the desert. Well, I'm sure Sander can tell you, the desert itself is dotted with ruins of Kazrin, and it's Kazrin that initially had flying ships. Of course, all of those secrets were lost in the Great Scorching, but some of the remnants remain. It's feasible that if you journeyed to one of the old airports of Kazrin, you could, maybe find a skier stone or two there.
My order collects treasures, oddities, relics of the past. I even wonder if some of them may have heard of such a thing.
I hadn't even considered that. It might be safer to go to them first, see if they have one they're willing to part with. I leave it to you to decide where you go. But just see to it that you're careful. Sander, you know the wastes better than anyone. So I feel confident in allowing the four of you to walk out into that God's forsaken place.
Well, I suppose we better stock up on water. Imagine there's not very much of it out there.
It's really not so bad as everyone makes it out to be. You may like it.
Well, I know there's plenty of food. I hear we could just sit down and eat all the sandwiches there.
No,
Edrick,
those are sandwiches. They're literally evil magic users that live out in the sand. They're not sandwiches. They're sandwiches. So don't seek them out. Very dangerous.
Oh. Well, I've been misinformed then. Well then.
The T in the spelling is very important in that instance.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I'd still love to see you try to eat one, though.
Well, I mean, no, if it's a person, I mean, I'm not a cannibal. I mean, come on now.
But there are cannibals, I mean. There are cannibals and drakes and undead leviathans. There are sandstorms of glass that will literally shred the flesh off of your bones. So please be careful.
Really not so bad. And Sander is really trying to assure his friends here that it's not so bad.
Could we just buy one of these stones in the market? I mean, wouldn't they just sell one of these just around? I mean...
I'm afraid not. The skier stones are they're ancient artifacts. We're fairly certain there's only 4 in existence anyway, so we have 3 of them. We need the 4th. And, well, we know that Dice has one, but we don't know what Dice is. So we're left with this option. I can see to it that you have enough water and rations to last you at least a few days. Try to make it a quick trip if you can.
Is there a way we could get horses?
Horses? Well, it's not recommended to bring horses into the desert. They usually don't make it far. They tend to breathe in the glassy sand and perish,
I
unfortunately.
think Holly might even make a joke. Is there any way we could bring horses? And Holly might say something like, we don't need that much food.
Right, well, then I suppose we must be off then. And then we can take that big flying boat. Wait, does anyone here know how to steer a big flying boat?
Sige has assured me that it's fairly user-friendly, but, well, there may be a learning curve of some kind in order to learn how to pilot it. Luckily, you won't have to worry about running into any others. You'll have the only one in existence. So, there is that.
That will be quite something. But let's be off, or we'll be just in time for the heat of the day.
Indeed. Listen to Sander. He knows what he's talking about. Let him be your guide, and I have no doubt that you will make it through safely.
So, Sandy, you want to drive this thing?
No, we're going into the desert first. We have to get the stone.
Yeah, I was kidding.
Do you think I could drive, Mr. Kristoff?
Flying would be easier, but I don't actually know the terrain very well from the sky, so...
So Emery hooks you guys up and gives you a few bundles of food, preserved rations, as well as 8 full canteens of water skins of water, to ensure that you have enough to at least last a few days out in Sonnegeist. He walks with you out of Sige's workshop and out through, you guys are already sort of in the Brass Quarter, which is also where the Dusk District is located. And once again, you find yourselves in the Dusk District for the 3rd time in the last week or so. And Emery is walking with you down the dusty streets, and you make it to that hole in the wall, that sort of collapsing portion of the wall that, Sander, you've walked through time and time again to come into Falhast and to leave and go back into Sonnegeist. This is the hole that you came through when you were arrested by Holly and accosted by Keenra. And now Emery is standing at the hole, and he's looking out through this sort of collapsed portion, and you see just the greenery just stops. There's like a few palm trees, and then it just stops, and there's just endless rolling plains of black sand just as far as the eye can see, and you just see the heat shimmering off of it already. And Emery is kind of looking out there, and he looks back at you all and says, good luck, all of you, and thank you.
Thank you. We sincerely appreciate your kindness and guidance.
I will continue to do all I can. I'm afraid I'm not much use to you in your endeavor, but whatever you need, resources, information, guidance, I will be here.
And I think as soon as we got far enough away, sort of in our, even at just starting off in this awful place, Kristoff would sort of level with Sander. Just be like, listen, there was a laundry list of things that were dangerous out here. But what kills most people? What do we really have to look out for?
Well, you wouldn't want to breathe in too much of the sand, and Sander immediately takes his veil and kind of covers his face. And you just need to know your body. You need to know yourself, know your limits, and plan very carefully. We will do that.
Holly will take her mask that she's used to wearing in the Dusk District, and she'll kind of place it over her face, and just a waft of sand almost immediately kind of brushes over her as she kind of covers her eyes and prepares for the desert.
What about you, Edrick? What are you doing to prepare as you look out into this just desolate expanse?
I look at I just look out at this shimmering heat, and already I am starting to feel warm and realize that the chainmail armor I am wearing is a very poor life decision, at least just in this moment in time. I see the others, and I kind of ape what the others are doing. I grab grab some of my common clothes, realizing that I'm probably not going to be getting changed into them anytime soon. And I kind of tug at one part of the sleeve and just kind of grab it in a mask and just kind of tie it up around my back. Other than that, I make sure that my pack is completely tight, everything's cinched down tightly, so that I try to get as little sand in there as possible. Kind of get my bag and grab my weapon and kind of start using it as a pole, just to make sure that if I sink in the sand, at least I can kind of judge where I'm kind of putting my foot down first.
And for a moment, seeing all of these preparations and everything, Kristoff sweating in his clerisy uniform, just pouring buckets. It's like, ugh. So I kind of stop for a second, and I do the hands on the knees, like, okay, hold on. Come on, baby. I'm usually in trouble when this happens. And a single horn made out of wood goes. Because it looks like he's leaning over, taking a hot molly in his clerisy uniform. But you just see this single horn kind of go, and it bursts out of his forehead in this wood explosion. It's like, and you just see this sort of this snout sort of, and he starts to sort of this. Basically, he turns into this large wooden sort of creature that resembles a ram from the Highlands. And he has used wild shape to essentially become a creature to sort of walk across the desert a little easier.
The sounds were perfect. I'm dying over here. So the four of you sort of prepare to set off into Sonnegeist, this desert of black, glassy sand that was the site of one of the greatest catastrophes that Erenoth has ever faced. This was the epicenter of that great war, of that calamity, of the dragons laying waste to Erenoth. It's literally a dragon-blasted landscape. And you set off. Sander, you sort of take the lead, picking your way carefully as the soft soil of Falhast soon gives way to that glassy black sand that you know so well. The heat coming off of the sand is unbearable. And Sander, you show your friends how, if they need to, they can dig down just a little bit into the sand and how much cooler it'll be, and just stick your hands in that cool sand. It'll be so much better. And you know that, shade is a commodity, and anytime you come across a ruin or a rocky outcropping or a particularly high dune, you stop and you take a rest in that shade, because it just feels like it feels like a refrigerator in comparison. You walk for a few hours, and Sander, what I'll need from you is a survival check with advantage, since you know this terrain so well.
Rolled a 12 plus 5, 17.
Very nice. So the first day in Sonnegeist, you pick a direction, Sander, and you stick to it. You follow the sun as your elders taught you, as you learned in the Order of the Unscorched. What sorts of tricks do you use, Sander? What sorts of techniques do you use to make your way safely across the desert on your first day here in Sonnegeist?
Well, the key probably would be the sun and also the stars. And I imagine Sander would have even been paying attention to the stars very carefully on his arrival, and probably every night, just because it's instinctual, even when he's in the city. And just always getting his bearings, because that's just, it's key, it's habit. And then I imagined also, like you said, just sort of, using the ruins here and there, little landmarks. He's been to Falhast before, so every little landmark he's mapped out. I mean, it could be an oddly shaped rock that's sometimes there and sometimes not. Buried in the sand one year, the next year it's uncovered. But he's known this, and so I imagine he uses just the tiniest little landmarks that others might not notice. Oh, that hill in the distance over there. Oh, that ruin over there.
Yeah, and as you walk, the three of you who haven't been into Sonnegeist, at least not in any sort of measurable, distance, you're sort of taken aback by the ruins here in Sonnegeist. These just soaring, majestic structures that at one time made up this vast empire. And that there were people here. There were millions of people here, and that the whole of Sonnegeist, this just massive sprawling desert, this was once, cities connected by roads. There were airships traveling between these cities. People lived for centuries, unnaturally prolonging their life through the use of magic. This was humanity in Erenoth at its peak, brought to its knees in a single moment that was the Great Scorching. And you see these soaring skeletons of what used to be this empire. And occasionally you pass by these gigantic sinkholes in the sand. And Sander, you wisely tell them, don't go near the sinkholes. You will slide right into it. But even at a distance, you can see the underlying structure of a city that has just been swallowed up by sand. You see the levels, you see the stories, you see roads beneath there, and you realize that just how massive this city was, just how incredible the infrastructure was. It is unlike anything in Erenoth today. And Erenoth will likely never see its kind again. The first day in Sonnegeist passes uneventfully. And as the sun goes down, and Sander, you know better than anybody that the heat of the day is second only to the chill of the night, and you know how cold it's about to get. You find a small cluster of ruins that provide a good amount of cover from the wind that is going to be blowing across the sand tonight. And it also gives you a good vantage point to see if anyone's coming, because you know too that the predators are going to be out soon. And it's best that you find a safe spot, build a fire, and hunker down for the night.
Yeah, and I imagine that, I kind of, as the fire is being prepared, I would point out, okay, here's the kind of place you want to find. We need a place close to the fire. But look, perfect. And I kind of point to like this maybe a fallen pillar, let's say, and say, two of you can sleep right here, right up against this pillar, right up against it. The wind will blow right over you. It'll be perfect. And then, just trying to point out as we're building this fire, other advantageous spots. I will be right up there. I will have a good watch.
And imagine they all kind of put a lot of work in together, making this area even more of a roost that can protect everyone from from exposure to the winds and the sands. And so Holly helps Sander maybe dig out kind of a small alcove that kind of like the hobbits were when they were hiding from the Nazgul underneath the log, just like a place where they can just nestle into. So she does that, and she throws her pack down and sits and realizes immediately, she checks her pockets and realizes immediately that she left something very special back home, and that was an old tobacco pouch that was handed down from her mother, that she liked to smell it, but she just realizes at this moment that she doesn't have it anymore, and for a second looks startled, looks into the distance back towards Falhast, realizes what great distance they've traveled, and just kind of sits back, resigned to where she is currently in her lot in life.
And I would be looking around for any fair size stones, like something that's fairly heavy, and just picking it up and beginning to kind of create at least some sort of a perimeter. So if anything would try and come in, it would have to try and climb over these stones and kind of leave it exposed to attack. So just kind of picking up like any heavy stones and just kind of plunking them down in kind of a semicircle.
Yeah, I think Christoph would adopt a supervisor's role in this construction project. And so certainly the foreman, not the worker, just sort of directing and, oh, yeah, look at the size of that one. I bet you can't lift that one.
Well, I'll show you, Mr. Christoph. And I'll go and pick up whatever large, heavy stones I can.
Yeah, and I'll be sleeping over there, which is the furthest. I bet you can't put it right next to where I'm going to be sleeping to protect me.
Oh, wait, I thought you were going to be sleeping in you're taking my tent. I thought we agreed upon that.
Yeah.
Is that
no.
still? Oh, are
yes,
you sure?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, listen, until further notice. Don't forget, you're homesick. Gotta get you out of that mode.
I'm not that homesick. I'm just really, really hot. I'm a bit sick from the heat, actually. Yeah.
That's textbook homesickness talking.
Is that what they say in books?
Sure. You got a sneaky case. Trust me when I say this tent is the best thing that happened to me and you.
I bet you if you could turn into your thing, you could haul all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I bet I could. But that hurt.
Sorry, that got me not hurt. She shrugs. No, resigned expression is what we'll give her, and that's it.
So the four of you set to setting up this camp based on Sander's suggestions. And night falls, darkness creeps in, and the temperature drops almost immediately. And it's sort of jarring. It's like the dead of winter and you open your front door, you know, in your nice hot house, and you open the door and it's just this cold, and you're all shivering within minutes. And during the day, you never would have thought that you were ever going to be cold ever again, but now you are. You're freezing, and you hear the desert start to wake up. You just hear things kind of scrabbling across the sand just outside the firelight. You hear some strange screeching cries in the distance, and Sander, you know that these are the drakes waking up from their burrows in the sand, coming up to hunt in the night. And to anyone who's not accustomed to these sounds, it's almost a cacophony of sounds. There's just so many creatures milling around in the desert, and you realize that this place that at first seemed very lifeless is in fact teeming with all sorts of life that has managed to survive here, and they just happen to take shelter during the day.
And Krista, or I imagine Sander would kind of call over to Kristoff and Edrick in the tent, if they're in a tent, and Holly, and just say, "Stay still. Stay quiet. If you get cold, it's tempting to want to move around, to warm up. Do not. Deep breaths. Calm yourself. Become part of the sand. The sun will come soon."
Awesome. Go ahead and give yourself a point of inspiration there, Nate. So what I'm going to need for all of you guys to keep track of, you each have 3 days of rations and 2 full water skins. On this first day, you have depleted 1 of your water skins, all of you. So just taking drinks throughout the day, and then also drinking here during your long rest, you have drank 1 whole water skin. And so, Sander, you know that your trip into Sonic Ice is likely going to take more than 2 days. And so you're probably going to want to start looking for water at some point to fill up those water skins.
All right, you said we have 3 water skins and we're 1 down, right?
2 water skins each.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have 1 water skin left. You have enough water to make it an entire day with plenty of water. And then after that, you got to start getting worried because you don't have water left.
Yep.
So you all hunker down, and are you setting a watch as well, Sander?
Yeah, so I imagine I was probably watching the first part of the night, and then I would probably, I don't know, I'd probably go rouse Holly, honestly, and say, "If you want to watch, you may. Otherwise..."
She wakes up and says, what, and grips her crossbow a little tighter.
"I can go without sleep if needed, but if you want to watch, you can."
Her muscles ease a little bit, and she realizes what she's done, and she just kind of relaxes and nods and says, "Yeah, that'll be good for me, actually," and stands up and maneuvers over to where Sander's kind of spot was.
"Thank you, my friend."
Yeah.
So Holly, you get up to this perch and you're able to keep an eye on the camp. You poke the fire, make sure that it's still going, and then get up on this perch. And the wind over the dunes is just bracingly cold. And so I imagine that you have to kind of hunker up a little bit, get your cloak around yourself to keep yourself from getting too cold. About an hour and a half into your watch, you see a couple of shapes moving in the darkness just beyond the firelight. They appear very, very large. And as they get closer and you kind of focus on them and your eyes sort of adjust a little bit, you can see that they're walking on all fours and they have long tails. And you recognize them because you fought one of these things in Falhast when Casimir attacked Accordant Square. They are drakes, a pair of them, and they are sort of circling the camp looking for any weaknesses in the defenses that you guys have put up.
Seeing these objects approach the camp, she looks around to Sander, and she, upon seeing him, will make this noise. I assume you said you were not going to sleep, correct, Sander? Because of your...
So I was planning to sleep and
I see. Okay,
watch to you.
Okay.
It's like, I'm asleep as hell right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
I didn't
Holly
need
looks to
sleep, but I
Sander.
want to.
Holly looks to Sander and goes, and then sees upon doing that there's no reaction, and she will look back to these creatures, aim, and make it kind of go probably in towards Kristoff's direction.
And, you know, at this, I think, especially in such a tense situation, you know, Kristoff would.
I thought that was going completely the other direction.
I imagine that Sander would wake up after some noise. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Sander wakes up and kind of looks your direction, Holly. What is it?
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. She'll make those same noises, and then she'll look, kind of glance towards the direction from whence these creatures are coming. And she'll hold up two, right? You said she saw two of them?
Yeah, you saw two for sure.
Yep. Then she'll hold up two fingers. However, Sander wants to interpret that's his call. Peace.
He's like, oh, okay, it's going well then. She's giving me the V for victory. Everything's good.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back to sleep.
Kosher. We're good.
I imagine that Sander would actually lean over with his quarterstaff and just kind of whack the tent of Kristoff and Edrick.
And as you whack the tent, just like pounds of sand come sliding off of it, because sand that has been blowing through has just been collecting on top of this tent, and it just slides off. And anyone inside the tent is probably rudely awoken.
Which that is not me, because as Mr. Kristoff told me just before he went into my tent, I was to lay down by the entrance of the tent just in case something was to come attack, so I could defend the tent when it would be my turn to use the tent at some point in time in the future, yet to be determined. So of course I'm sitting, leaning up against, kind of trying to sleep on this uncomfortable boulder that I've placed near the tent, you know, just kind of like twisting my back. And I just kind of like look, and I kind of point my poleaxe, like just out into the camp. What's going on, Mr. Sander?
Shh, quiet. There's something out there. And I would kind of, I would scramble very quietly and deftly up to where Holly is and have a look for myself. And yeah, so there's drakes. What do I see?
Yeah, so you see the two drakes, and you can definitely make them out. You recognize their shape, and specifically, you know that these are shaleback drakes, which are specifically found in Sonageist. And they have almost these kind of like rocky sort of turtle shell growths on their back, which when they burrow into the sand, they just look like rocky outcroppings. And then if something gets too close, they come up out of the sand. But it also protects them from the sun and from things trying to attack them from above. So you see these creatures. They're large, not quite as large as the drake that you fought in Falhast, but they're circling the camp, and you can hear them kind of like sniffing, and you see their forked tongues flicking out as they're sort of smelling and trying to gauge how many creatures are in there. You see them kind of looking at the fire warily, sort of keeping their distance from it.
And would I know that they are particularly afraid of fire, or?
You know that they're not necessarily afraid of fire, but that they're sort of trying to gauge, like, is there someone who's going to harm us if we try to come in here looking for food or what?
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. I would probably, oh man. I would probably say, okay, we must spread out a little bit. We don't want to be sitting ducks here. Spread out, find a place to hide. A crag, a nook, anything.
And at this point, Kristoff is squatting inside the tent, just sort of like poised, but using the fact that he's hidden to his advantage and, trying to make eye contact with Sander, and he's got his hand on his blade.
And looking around, realizing how big I am, I just kind of shrink myself up around back of the boulder. And I'll actually dig my, bury my poleaxe into the ground, kind of blade up, and I'll unhook my crossbow as well, load it, and kind of get it ready as well.
We need to get far away from the tent. Far away. Let them think we are here by the fire.
I was actually whose rations would be close to the fire, closest.
You can go with Sander, sure.
Because that's what Holly would be looking at. Maybe perhaps we can get out of this without any, they'll just walk through, they'll leave, and we'll be done with it. But she sees the rations near the fire, and she immediately, thinks, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out halfway, and her sights are rested on one of the drakes as she holds her breath, just in case it moves towards the rations, because she understands where they are. She understands that this is survival, and this is all about survival from this moment forward.
What I'll need from everyone is stealth rolls, please.
I'm going to use my inspiration.
I am too.
Happy I did.
I'm going to go ahead and do History Arcana.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll work. Why not?
Can I use an inspiration to take the disadvantage off my stealth roll, seeing as how I'm in chainmail?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank goodness. I didn't. The inspiration, it did nothing.
So the drakes enter the camp. They kind of climb over these stone fortifications that you kind of pushed into any sort of openings in the ruins. They slither in, both kind of approaching from a couple different directions. Sander, drakes to be incredibly clever hunters and predators, and they normally, when they approach prey, they one of them flanks and they kind of circle around them. And Holly and Sander, you are both still as death. Not a grain of sand shifts underneath you as you stay motionless from your perches. But Kristoff and Edrick, you sort of, you're hiding, you got your backs to some of the ruins. Edrick, you sort of feel your weight give in the back, and you realize that the ruin that you're leaning against, this pillar, has given way, and it starts to crumble and fall over. And as that happens, Kristoff gasps as it starts to go down, and the drakes both look into the darkness. They were heading towards the rations and the fire, and they look in your general direction, and they both just charge in the direction of Kristoff and Edrick. Holly and Sander, you were both kind of poised and ready to act, though, so I will allow you to both act in this sort of surprise round if you want to, as soon as it goes south.
Go ahead, do the honor, Sander. This is your territory.
All right, so yeah, I guess seeing these these creatures attacking my friends, my companions, I would definitely go ahead and attack. So I haven't attacked with this guy in a while. How does this work? All right. Okay, so I do have my unarmed strike. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna move in, and I just kind of lunge as soon as I see them attacking, and I'm basically gonna be this little ball of fury that's trying to get between them and my friends and smack one in the face. And the quarterstaff is going to be an 11, and the unarmed strike is going to be an 18 to hit.
So your quarterstaff, you bring it down, and you just feel it kind of knock uselessly against the shells of these shaleback drakes. But your unarmed strike, you manage to get in under it and deal some damage. So go ahead and give me some damage there.
Yeah. So I imagine my quarterstaff misses, and then I just kind of swing around, and I also send my foot flying up at its face next. And that will be for a whopping 4 damage.
4 damage, okay. And we're using Drunkens and Dragons global DCs here. So the DC for this encounter is 15. So any saves, trying to hit AC, all of that, it's all 15 is the target number that you guys are looking for pretty much everything. So you managed to deal a little bit of damage to one of the drakes. In doing so, it recognizes you as an actual threat and turns to deal with you, Sander, while the second one still continues over to Kristoff and Edric. So you have at least distracted one of them from eating your friends. Holly, are you going to act as well?
Yes, actually, she her sights are dead on this creature that's heading towards Kristoff, and she feels the chill in her body. But usually in marksmanship, people might find this a distraction. This is where they start to shiver. This is where they start to twitch. But for some reason, she has always found this comfort in the cold. That's why she always took these kind of night shifts. That's when, in ways, this chill calmed her muscles and froze her like it would anything else around it. And her sights fall on this drake as she is going to release a bolt, and that is a hit. And so the bolt will well, I'll do a little bit. It strikes maybe one of the arms of this creature, dealing 4 points of damage at this drake. Perhaps not enough to take care of it, but maybe enough to distract it or buy Kristoff some time.
And were you shooting at the other one, or the one that Sander was attacking as well?
Not the one Sander was attacking, the one that you said was continuing towards Kristoff, despite Sander's
great
awesomeness. So
the two drakes are immediately turning around to face their attackers, seemingly forgetting about Kristoff and Edric. So what I'd like from everyone is initiative rolls, please. That's so nice. You guys wrote it in order without even trying, so that's perfect. So, Kristoff, you're actually up first. What would you like to do?
So, this gasp, and as I see in my periphery, Holly, probably just the outline of her, and I hear the unmistakable snap of her crossbow, just that. And then I barely see Sander. It just this blur. But I think without thinking, instinctively, I'm trying to either push or pull Edric out of the way so that this pillar doesn't fall on him. Basically, I'm like, that sort of involuntary grasp when your friend is like dropping something, like, oh. So I'm not sure, is he in any kind of danger? Is this stuff falling near him, on him?
It's basically, he's sort of leaning against it and it's sort of falling backwards. So the most he's going to do is kind of fall and stumble a little bit backwards, but it's not toppling on top of him.
Gotcha. So then I would notice that probably in just a split second, like, and so gathering my wits, what I would probably do is scramble into the tent where I forgot my bow. And
like,
so
you zip it up and
I'm like, yeah. I Scrooge McDuck it where it's like something is floating up above my face and coming down. So I would probably have that moment of like, I go to grab it and then I'm just like, so I kind of scurry into the tent, grab it, and then I attempt to shoot whichever one. I would imagine, based on how I'm imagining it, you tell me, the one that Sander hit seems closer to me, but I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, the one that was sort of coming towards you that Sander got is a little bit closer than the one that Holly shot at. So yeah, the one that is sort of engaged with Sander, has its back to you, is the closest one.
Okay, perfect. So remembering our time in the square, I remember that, what seemed to work was these things seemed to be, I guess, susceptible to magic. So I'm going to kind of and I'm going to launch one of my spells at this thing. So that does not hit. So that's an 11. So I produce flame at the end of the bow, and it sails through the night, but it misses the drake. And I don't know, I'll leave it up to you if it hits the sand and douses out or catches the camp on fire.
Yeah, the whole thing goes up. No, it just kind of sails past, and you see the arrow sink into the sand, and the flame just kind of fizzles.
The only thing that burns are our water skins.
Yeah. You hit the cask of water skins that are just all piled together, and for some reason it just like goes up like a Volkswagen in an 80s action movie, just for no reason, just explodes.
That sound was perfect.
One of the drakes says, "Let's blow this thing and go home," and runs away.
Yeah. You're like, I didn't know we were drinking lighter fluid this entire time. So the drakes are sort of locked in combat with you guys. The one fighting Sander, it spins to confront Sander, and in doing so, its tail kind of cuts through the fire, and you just see all the logs of the fire just kind of roll out of it. The fire kind of dissipates a little bit, and there's all these kind of glowing coals all over the ground, and it gets very, very dim as the fire sort of goes out. Edrick, it is now your turn.
Actually, I believe it was Holly's turn. Holly Barker did roll one higher than me.
Yes, it is Holly's turn. Sorry.
I'm going to pass the turn to Edrick. No, I'm going to take the turn to she will scowl, and she will immediately load another bolt. She's such an expert at this that she just does so in one fluid motion, and she again breathes in, breathes out, lets her breath be held halfway down. She falls still and fires a bolt at the drake, and which will be a total of 17. If you said 15?
Yeah, 15 is the number you're looking for. This is a DC 15 encounter.
This time, the bolt flies true, striking the beast with a total of 13 points of damage. You tell me what that looks like.
13 points of damage?
I rolled a 10 on the D10 plus 3.
Yeah. So I imagine you actually, the bolt hits this thing in its back where the shell is, but it punctures the shell. It's like when you pop a crab claw with those pincer things, like it just cuts through, and you see just a spray of blood erupt from this thing as you puncture its tough outer shell. It kind of shrieks and begins charging towards you, and you see it kind of get to the bottom of your pillar and start kind of scrambling up, trying to get to you, Holly. Anything else you want to do in your turn?
No, but she definitely will kind of make sure that she is got the high ground and is ready to defend her position from this thing.
Absolutely. Okay, Edrick, now you're for real. It's your turn.
For really real. Now, is there one? Would you say that there's one in range of me going up and meleeing?
Definitely. Yeah, the one that Sander is currently engaged with is within a move of you.
Okay, looking at the crossbow, realizing I am not one iota of the shot of Holly, I would just throw it down and run, and as I'm running towards it, I'm grabbing the poleaxe that I had like dug into the kind of put blade up into the sand, grabbing it and using the momentum, swinging it like a pendulum. I'm gonna basically come up with both arms and just come straight down with the axe blade straight on the back, trying to just split the shell wide open. Oh, that's good. That is where's my character sheet, you stupid bastard? There it is. That would be a 24 to hit.
Yeah, definitely.
And that would be 8 damage as I come straight down. And then I'm going to use my second wind. And I'm just going to basically pull it out. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to use the hammer to try and strike the same spot. That's pretty good. That is a 21 to hit. So that hits. Grab the old D4. And that'll be 6 damage for the light hammer.
Nice.
Damn, so yeah, Edrick just comes up and starts wailing on this thing, and chunks of its shell are just kind of flying off as you're cleaving into it. All right, that brings us to. I just saw what you wrote for Sander in the initiative list. Sander, it's your turn. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Bernie.
Starting to use that Control D thing to unmute a lot, but it only works if I'm
it only works if you're clicked in the window. Exactly. Yep.
Anyway, for the record, that I made it 2 hours without talking while muted.
I'm really impressed, actually. I think that's a record.
All right. So I'm basically standing, I imagine, sort of face to face with one still, and I am going to unleash my flurry of blows. And I can't remember, it's been a while. Does this mean that I get my attack, my unarmed attack, and 2 more unarmed attacks? Does anyone know?
Yes, I believe that is how it works.
Okay. So yeah, basically I'm just kind of wailing on this thing, and I imagine I'm kind of getting under it now and trying to work on its neck and chest a little bit. And okay, so the 19 with my quarterstaff will hit, but the 1 with my unarmed strike, my first unarmed strike, will not. So I imagine I just kind of jab this thing with my quarterstaff for that'll be 9 damage, and then just keep on pummeling this thing. 1 of them will hit for 5 damage.
Great. So essentially these drakes just kind of ran in here, charged at you guys, and are just getting the crap beaten out of them. This one in particular that is sort of squaring off with Sander and Edrick and Kristoff is just getting pummeled at this point. But it sort of steps back a little bit, shakes its head, blood kind of dripping onto the sand from it, and it opens its mouth and roars and sort of lunges. And so it's going to make a couple of attacks. One coming at you, Sander, but it misses. Come on, dice. Nope. And
That's Holly, not dice.
Sander just somersaults through the sand, like he just dives when this thing lunges at him.
yeah, exactly.
He becomes
Okay,
made of sand.
so the first drake, it swipes at you, Sander. You manage to dodge out of the way. It spins. It brings its tail kind of whipping across, trying to strike at Edrick, but also misses. Holly, what I'll need from you is either a athletics or acrobatics check, whichever is higher for you.
Okay. She will pick acrobatics, and so she's trying to balance. That is 19 plus 3, 22.
Good Lord. So this
Yeah.
this drake just powerfully built creature. It manages to jump and claw its way up the pillar that you're kind of perched on top of, and it snags you with its claws in your cloak and kind of starts dragging you down the pillar, and you manage to just wrench yourself free and take a few steps back, freeing yourself from its claws. It was basically trying to grab you and hurl you off of the pillar.
Awesome.
So that'll bring us back to the top of the initiative with Kristoff.
So seeing Sander and Edrick squaring off with this one and essentially just handling it, and then seeing Holly doing what she does best, essentially, and sniping and taking care of this other one, what I'm going to do is, don't forget, I'm like crouched in this tent. I'm going to sort of like quickie crab walkie, like just like kind of out there, and then wave my hand and sort of, and I'm trying to feel the soil of this place. I'm trying to feel what the bones of Sonageist really feel like, and I'm calling it from beneath the sand that we can feel, and I sort of, and I lift my hand, and underneath one of the drakes, this sort of shifting, writhing sand begins to take the shape of what looks like many hands. And what I'm doing is I'm reskinning Entangle to basically just be the soil and the sand, like grabbing at this drake to kind of keep it in place.
Perfect. And you're specifically targeting the one that was going after Holly, correct?
Yes. So,
okay, cool.
So it's not to mess with, because they seem like they have it handled, you know, between Edrick ringing its bell and Sander ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to keep that one busy so that Holly can, you know, do what she does.
Cool. And it needs to make a save, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And you need to beat a 13.
Doesn't matter. I rolled a nat 1.
Yes.
Ah! Dude, I busted out my old Chessex, my yellow guys. I was just feeling some classic Chessex dice tonight, and they are just failing me in every regard.
Oh, I love that.
I like it. I think they're great.
Back in the Crown Royal with you. You're going back in the Crown Royal, and you're never coming out. Okay.
No, not the Crown Royal.
All right.
I'm so overrated.
So this thing. So what does that look like as the sand sort of grabs at this drake?
I think the drake is confused because this is its home. It knows it very well. And so I think there's an animalistic fear. And so I would imagine, do these things sort of rear up on their hind legs often to attack or to move around?
They normally will stay on all fours, but they don't like to sort of get up because it exposes their sort of soft underbelly, their little tummies. They like to stay on all fours where their natural armor will protect them.
Yeah, dude, that classic white stripy Pete's dragon situation.
Exactly. And it's really soft, and you just want to pet it. But if you do, you know they're going to grab on and get you with their back legs really quick.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I think if you'll allow it, that the way that it looks with the Nat 1 is that as these things begin, these hands form from the sand, it's the last thing this creature would expect from a place that it has lived in as part of its ecosystem. And so I think it would like rear up for a moment and be a little more exposed.
Definitely, yeah. As it's sort of trying to avoid the grappling, it's sort of, getting back on its legs.
Almost like a horse that's startled, just like that kind of movement. Very quick, erratic.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings us to, that was Kristoff. So Holly, you're next.
Mm-hmm. So what would this affect? How would this affect Holly reloading her crossbow, drawing it back, and aiming expertly down at this thing? Would it be easier to hit it now that it's entangled?
Oh, you die.
Yeah, you're dead. No, it kills you. No, it wouldn't be easier to hit, but you know that you're safe to sit there and just pop off shots on it because it can no longer get up the pillar to try and grab you because it's rooted in the spot.
That's exactly what she does. She pulls down execution style. She has no remorse. She looks this thing dead in its black eyes and rolls a 22 to hit, which will do that.
Absolutely,
You told
yeah.
me the DC. You told me the DC. 12 damage at this thing from a bolt. That's a 9
Damn.
plus 3.
Damn.
Dude, yeah. Hey, man, I went with the old school, even more old school than Chessex. This is a 20-sided D10. That's why I'm rolling so well. It's got
You ranged
1 through 20 on it.
fighters. It's got 1 through 20 on it. It's you've never seen a D10 like this. It's got it.
Never.
It goes all the way up to 20.
I'm rolling Formula Day dice, so my D20 is like 16 through 20, and that's it.
You're like, the damage is only supposed to be a D10, but I'm just rolling a D12. I hope, is that okay? Or
Is that cool?
it's just
That's cool. This is theater of the mind, right? It's theater of the mind. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I'm actually rolling a D100 for my damage, so that's fine. Again, this thing, it's rearing back. It's sort of entangled in these sandy sort of tendrils that Kristoff has summoned, and you put a bolt right into its sort of just that soft underbelly of this thing where it doesn't have that armored protection, and you just sink a bolt into its torso. All right, that brings us to Edrick.
Okay, so I'm actually going to use a maneuver, and I am going to use a trip attack. All right, and that'll be, the heck was it again? And that'll be, that'll be a 15. Like straight on the money.
That hits.
Oh my God, you lucky farm boy. And that's, so that'll be 12 damage with that hit. So as I just come along, and I'm just like coming straight down at the kind of like one front leg with the axe, and just coming as hard as I can to maybe hack it off. That's my version of tripping. Just removing limbs.
Yeah, I imagine that it doesn't cut all the way through, but you just you hack through this thing's leg and get like 3/4 of the way through, and you see bones snap and come out, and this thing just completely loses all of its balance and puts all of its weight on this leg and goes to ground. So it is now prone, correct, since you tripped it?
Well, actually, it does have to make a strength saving throw.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, the DC is 14.
It does not make it.
Oh, I love that die. You should bring those yellow dice out more often, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, I'm going to switch to this orange D20 and see if that helps.
No, I don't think you should.
Yeah, with this.
You know, I mean,
Jangus,
you're already committed, right?
Yeah,
you're
Weird,
already committed.
weird.
So.
We did a thing. We're halfway in the thing. It's like changing the thing.
So now it is prone. It has been tripped. So that brings us to Sander.
All right. So I had to step away there for a second. Sorry. Is this the one that is prone? Is this the one that I was engaged with or no?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm basically going to try to leap over. And now that I'm imagining its underbelly basically is exposed enough that I can just go to town on it. And
yeah, and it's since it's prone, you have advantage on your attacks against it.
Okay, awesome.
Because you're within 5 feet of it.
I got a 1 and a 20. So that's great. And so that will be a crit with my quarterstaff. And so I will roll my damage here and double it. So that's 4 plus 3 is 7. That's 14 total damage.
That will end
abdomen.
this thing. Go ahead and describe what that looks like.
Yeah, so I just imagine I leap over and I just kind of jab my quarterstaff into the softest part of its body, really. And I imagine that even though this is bludgeoning damage, but I imagine that this thing just actually pierces in, and I find its heart and just wrench it. And using all 70 pounds.
All 70 pounds of cat-like monk fury.
And then I just and then I just pull out my quarterstaff and just kind of put it in the sand to like wipe it off, and I'm ready for the next one.
Take out the heart kebab, take a bite. So you still have movement, and I believe you still have attacks as well. So you can move and attack the other one as well if you want. Oh, you're muted, son.
That's twice now. I guess I will leap over this one, or just kind of scramble around and get a kick at the rear of the other one.
Kick him right in the butt.
And that will be. Oh, I did not have advantage on that one though. So
no. Oh, and now you do because it's restrained, as Tim pointed out in the chat. So you do have advantage on that.
Good, because that time I rolled 19 and a 1. I'm rolling so many ones tonight.
Man,
it's this new Game Science orange one right here. I don't know what is with orange dice, but
I have an orange Game Science one too. It's one of my favorites.
Yep. So anyway, that'll be a 19 with my unarmed for 2 damage. So I imagine I just kind of leap with my I'm sorry, that's more than 2 damage. I got to add my modifier. That is 5 damage. So I imagine I kind of leap and almost pole vault myself with my quarterstaff and just kick it in its back leg.
Perfect. All right. That was Sander. It is now the remaining Drake's turn. So it's going to try and what do I need to do to escape the entanglement, Tim?
Yep, just a strength save 13 or higher.
13 or higher. There we go. That's a 16 on the die. Okay. So this Drake, it kind of, the sand, I imagine, it sort of crystallizes a little bit to harden to snag this thing. And it just strains against it. And you see the sandy tendrils just kind of shatter like glass as this thing breaks free. And it immediately comes down and brings all its weight down on Sander, who has come within range of it. So it's going to make a couple of attacks against Sander. There we go. 19 on the die, and Sander, you have AC 13, so that's 2 hits. There we go. Let me roll some damage here. Oh, here we go. Max damage. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's going to be 16 slashing damage, Sander, as this thing, it sort of comes down and just with 2 huge claws just raking across. You feel flesh and cloth both shred like ribbons as this thing comes down on you, shredding across your torso.
You said how much damage?
16 slashing.
Okay. And I actually do have AC of 16, unless this is an error on my sheet. But
oh, okay. Yeah, AC 16. So he still hit twice because I got 19 on the die on the other one, and then 11 plus 5, 16 on the other one.
Oh, fine. Okay.
All right. That was the remaining Drake's turn. So, Kristoff, it is your turn. So, you've seen the first Drake go down. Edrick is still kind of standing over it as after Sander finished it off. Sander immediately kind of, like Liu Kang's over to the other one and is kind of almost getting overpowered by this thing. It's sort of bearing down on him, driving him to the ground, slashing at him with these horrible claws. What would you like to do?
So I think that it's going well. It busts through and the sand sort of, and I would say that reverberates like almost as an extension of me sort of holding it. I can almost feel a shockwave as this thing busts through. And I kind of jerk back, and for a quick second, I don't even think about it, and I sort of push back harder, and I am basically going to use the will within me to summon a flame within my hand. And so what I'm going to do is run at this thing and just strike it as hard as I can with this fiery blade that has appeared in my hand. And this is a spell called Flame Blade. And what I can do is make a melee spell attack. And if I do hit, the target takes 3d6 fire damage.
Damn, awesome.
Yeah. All right, so that's 11 on the die. It is a spell attack. So beat it by 1. That's a 16.
Beautiful. Beauty damage.
All right, I've got my 3d6 here. Let's see. Oh, nice. A 6 and a 5, so 11, 12, 13, 14.
Go ahead and describe how you kill this second Drake.
as it is clawing at Sander after it has burst through the sand, I'm sort of running toward this thing, and these wooden sort of deer antlers begin to sprout from out of my head as this flaming blade strikes across and removes the arm of the drake, cauterizing it shut mid-slash of Sander. And as it falls in the sand, its scent, this burning flesh, is the last thing that this creature remembers as it falls over dead.
This thing topples over, and its dying screech echoes across the night of Sonegeist. And as the combat ends, the pillar that was sort of toppling over at the beginning finally finishes kind of falling over, because all of this happened within about 18 seconds. And so the entire time this pillar was kind of falling over, and now it just kind of settles on the ground. And you're all just standing in sort of the orange glow of the fire that got sort of spread across the ground by this thing's tail.
Holly would hop down and kind of next to it and let out a sigh of relief, look to Edrick, look to Sander, look to Kristoff, just to make sure everyone was okay.
So sorry about that. Hey, Mr. Sander, I was thinking, can we eat these? I mean, you know, we don't have too much food, but I imagine we can get quite a bit of meat off these. Maybe it's like them river lizards, right? Where you can only eat the legs and part the tail.
Sander looks at Edrick and smiles, and then coughs up some blood and slides to the ground on his knee. You could try.
What? Can someone help him? And I'm gonna rush and kind of hold onto him. Just look at Holly and look at Kristoff. Well, when you do something?
I'm fine.
You don't look so good. And she looks to Kristoff. Do you have anything that could make him better? And looks to his pack or something.
And so he turns his hand, still holding the embers of what was a sword, and these ridiculous deer antlers on the front of his head. He sort of turns and looks, and it's ridiculous. It's stupidly majestic. And taking that flame, I actually will, without thinking, I place it against Sander's wounds, just sort of like, and so what I'm going to do is, in this moment, I'm actually going to cast Cure Wounds, and I'm here using D&D Beyond to type in all these spells. So I'm going to do Cure Wounds, which Nate, you gain 1d8 plus my spell casting ability modifier, which for Kristoff is a 3. And so you gain a d8 plus 3 hit points back.
Awesome. I rolled a 7. Thank you.
For sure.
So I imagine, yeah, Sanders, his eyes had begun to close, and at feeling this searing, they immediately widen, and he looks, but as his wounds kind of close up, becomes calm again.
Kristoff says, oh, I'm glad that worked.
And Sander, you actually know a couple things about these shaleback drakes. You know that indeed they are edible. There's nothing toxic or poisonous about their flesh. They don't taste great. They're a little stringy. There's not a lot of fat on them, but they're edible. And you also know that if you can successfully remove the shell from their backs, that the shells are fairly useful. You can use them as shade. You can use them to slide down dunes safely. A lot of people in your order actually have like tents and little domiciles that they build with like little shaleback ceilings and things like that. So you know that can be pretty useful if you want to spend the time removing the shells from these things.
Awesome. Yeah, and as I don't really have like a strong blade on me, I would probably kind of point that out to my companions here and just kind of, using my staff, say, okay, now just cut this here and yes, this is the only good part you can eat right here, but it won't taste very good.
Well, I'll start using my kind of the spike on my poleaxe kind of as a lever to see if I can just kind of pop the shell off, and I'll probably use like just some type of like knife and just kind of start cutting pieces off. If there's any like remnants of like coals or anything else that I can try and like gather up into a pile, I'll probably start like pre-cooking them ahead of time. And if I have any salt or any other spice, I'll probably like salt the living hell out of it to kind of dry it out. In other words, just to try and like add to rations whatever I can butcher out of it.
Yeah, so you don't have to use any of your preserved rations today. So you still have 3 days worth of rations because you can eat the shalebacks instead, and you also now have 2 shaleback shells in your possession.
Cool. And Matt, I have the Wanderer or Outlander ability in terms of finding water here. It says I'm able to do that if there is, I think it's like small game and foliage, and I don't imagine there is much here in the desert. But anyway, I thought I'd let you know that at least. But I imagine that could be a challenge.
That's still absolutely pertinent. And I think with that, and also the fact that you live here in Sonnegeist, like this is your stomping ground, you actually know of an oasis within a few hours walk of here. And so if you want to head in that direction at first light, you absolutely can.
Cool. So I imagine maybe we want to take the equivalent of a short rest, guys, and just kind of nurse our wounds a bit. But
yeah, I was actually going to say you have about an hour or two until daylight, and so that's enough time for a short rest if anyone wants to use hit dice or anything like that.
Maybe climb into a shaleback still warm body.
I'm going to taunt it. Forget the tent.
You thought they smelled bad?
On the outside. So the sun rises on the desert of Sonnegeist. Anyone who decided to get a few more hours of sleep is immediately woken by that glare, that harsh sunlight. Anyone who is sleeping is covered in a thin layer of that glassy sand that has sort of blown over your body or your tent in the night. Sander, you know that you have about 3 hours until the sun reaches its zenith. This is prime time for traveling. So if you set out now, you feel confident that you can make it to the oasis by noon.
Awesome. So yeah, I imagine I'm leading the way, but I'm here and there dropping to the back to just check on my companions and talk with them, make sure they're still lucid and doing okay. And I'm hobbling a little bit. I'm leaning pretty heavily on my quarterstaff. Just there's a pretty big gash from this Drake still kind of in my shoulder, chest area. It's still hurting a little bit, but I imagine we hobble along through the desert okay.
Yeah, you guys make some good time. What I'd like from you, Nate, is the Order of the Unscorched. I imagine that they're fairly nomadic in nature. I think that in a desert situation like this, you have to sort of be nomadic in order to survive. You got to move where there's shade, where there's water, where there's food. But is there any sort of like central location or like rendezvous point where you can go to meet up with members of your order?
I imagine that there is like a ruined temple that basically my order sprung from, many orders that used to be in Sonnegeist or the Casimir Empire. There we go. And so I imagine that there's a temple somewhere that's still in relatively good shape where they're known to be. I imagine it's not in good shape at all. And, from a distance, it might just look like another hill or mountain, crumbling pile of rocks.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And you know that it's probably within a day's march of the oasis. So the plan now is get to the oasis, fill up on water, get what we need there, and then head towards that temple and meet up with your order. So you guys make good time. After about 3.5 hours, you see sort of hazy in the distance, you see green, and it's sort of startling. It's been, 36 hours since you've seen anything green or, living that wasn't trying to kill you. And so seeing that on the horizon sort of shimmering in the heat is a little bit, it's a little jaw-dropping. But you make it there and you sort of move through the trees, move through the foliage, and you see this beautiful sight. I'll actually, I have some art here. Hang on. I can find it. Oh, I didn't save it down. I don't have it. Oh no. Well, trust me. It was good art. You just see this this pool of this crystal clear water just glistening in the sun, and you see grass and shrubs and palm trees kind of surrounding it. And you see that there are animals here, there are creatures here. You see several large cats that look very similar to Sable, but they're out here in the oasis kind of just sitting near the water, just keeping cool in the shade. Their eyes are closed, sleeping. And as you're sort of moving through the shrubs, before you sort of break into the clearing here that is the oasis, you see a figure moving out of the trees on the opposite side. You see this humanoid figure, very tall, very lithe, dragging what looks like a shaleback shell behind it. And it's completely robed, covered in robes, and you see that its face is masked as well. And it's dragging this shaleback shell through the sand, and as it gets to the oasis, it drops the shell, goes to its knees, and you see it bring part of its veil down, and it just like basically plunges its head into the water to get a big drink.
Be cautious now. We should.
What is it?
I don't know.
Is that one of your friends?
It's too far. I can't really tell.
Well, it seems he just wants some bit of water, just like us. I mean, we'll get our water skins out and fill them. Hello! And just kind of start walking towards the oasis. I'm a bit parched myself. I don't know about the rest of you. And I just kind of heave, like I kind of hold the shell kind of like aloft as I'm just walking. Hey, maybe we can fill this whole thing and drink it all.
and as you're walking towards him, this projectile sinks into the ground in front of you. And you see it looks like a short sort of javelin. And if you look back, you see that this robed figure is standing up now, and he's wheeling back with another one. And he puts out a hand and he goes, "Now that's far enough."
Well, now, hang on a minute. It's not your water, is it? It belongs to the desert, and we're in the desert, so it kind of belongs to all of us.
The masked robed figure kind of droops the javelin a little bit, kind of like, what the hell? Like, you're not from around here. Like, it's sort of like someone steps out to mug you, like, "Give me your wallet." And you're like, "Hey, come on, man. You don't need any money. Money's a sham." And he's like, "What?" He's just kind of like very confused, and he looks back and he sees the rest of you in the trees, and he sort of realizes that he's outnumbered, and he starts kind of taking steps back, and he's grabbing his shell, He's still got the javelin in his hand, and he's starting to step back out of the oasis.
We're not your enemy here. Go ahead, Sander. Sander and Holly speak up at the same time, but Holly would immediately diminish because Sander knows everything about this place.
Yeah, no, as Holly says that, Sander just runs up to Edrick, and I imagine it's like a little tiny dog nipping at his heels as he's walking, and I'm furious. I'm fuming. I'm saying, don't you ever do that again. You could get us killed. You wait for us to act. You wait for me to act. I'm like white knuckling my little my quarterstaff here as I'm running alongside, and Sanders Edrick's kind of looking at me like.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Sander. Well, I'm really thirsty, and it's so hot, and he was just drinking some water. I didn't know he was going to start throwing his little sticks at me or nothing. Would you like your stick back? I kind of pull this mini javelin. Would you like it back? You know, you're not a very good shot, but that's all right. I mean, with practice, you'll probably get better.
What the hell? Yes, I would like that back, please. And just for the record, that was a warning shot.
Oh, right. Well, then, you're a very good shot after all.
And he kind of like looks at you, Sander, and you kind of have a connection as only like nomads in the desert can, where he's like, who is this guy? And he sort of like comes forward very cautiously to get his spear, and he sort of gestures to the water. All right, well, if you're not here to do me harm, plenty of water for everyone.
I'm very sorry about my friend here. Anyway, and I kind of just laugh it off.
Kind of a nice change of pace. It's pretty rare showing up at the oasis and having someone not trying to kill you for no reason. Name Shade. Nice to meet you.
Sander. And my companions. And I kind of motion them.
Big watery gulp from the oasis. She says, Holly, under slurred speech because her face is just drenched now.
Holly.
Chris.
And he kind of looks at Edrick. What about you, big friendly?
Oh, my name's Edrick Meadows. Say, is this oasis, do lots of people come around this oasis?
Well, there's not really lots of people in Sonagais, but yeah, fairly good amount. I stop by every few weeks, fill up my water, and be on my way. It's also a good place to get game if you're hungry. He kind of like sinks down into the grass and next to the water, and he brings out just like it's like a bandolier of water skins. Like it's just a belt that's just like 12 water skins, and he just like brings it off of him and drops it into the sand and begins the slow, arduous process of just filling them all up. Doing that thing where you're like filling up super soakers as a kid, where you're just waiting for the bubbles to stop. You like knowing that there's no air left. He's just like sitting there with them in the water. And you notice, Sander, that he's completely covered. He has wraps on his hand and feet. His face is completely covered in cloth. There's just a tiny little slit where you can see his eyes, and he has this hood pulled really far over his head. And when he kind of like looks up at you as he's filling it up, you catch this strange silvery sheen that crosses over his eyes as they look out at you from the darkness of his hood. What I'd like from you, Sander, is actually, you don't even need to make a check. You've probably tangled with these guys before. You know that this is one of the Sunwalker tribe. This is a surface drow. They've been exiled, and they live here in Sonagais in basically the worst place that a drow could live, in a desert with very little shadow in it. And so they keep themselves completely covered and normally only move around at night.
I say, are there more of your kind around here, nearby?
He kind of by my kind, I assume you mean Sunwalkers. No, it's just me. I'm on my own.
How long have you been out here?
Well, I've lived in the desert all my life. I've never known anywhere else. Now that you sort of are all aware, he sort of like brings down his mask. He keeps his hood on to keep the sun out of his face, but he brings down the mask, and you see that he's this very gaunt looking elven man with skin that is almost translucent. It's completely albino skin, just the palest, whitest skin you've ever seen. And his eyes are they look dark. They look blacker than black, but every so often he moves and the light catches him, and you just see this silver sheen across him from his sort of omnipresent dark vision, always on in the shadow of his hood. My great-grandparents used to live underground, but we've been up here for some time.
And why is it you are all alone? Your kind, don't you usually travel in groups?
Yeah, we do. We do. I'm the only one left of my family, my tribe. We well, you know how it is. Out in Sonnegeist ain't the easiest place to live.
Reckon we don't. What happened to your family? Holly says almost abruptly and without courtesy.
It was the elves at a New Imperia out in the middle of Sonnegeist. Come from some place called Haldrathine.
They have been nothing but trouble to these realms.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. Ever since they showed up 10, 15 years ago, they act like they own the desert. They just show up, say, put a sign on it. This is Haldrathine now. Apparently we lived in their territory. So we put up a fight and wiped us out. Wiped all of us out. Lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of family. Those Haldrathine bastards.
Some of my order has fallen to them as well. I'm sorry to hear of your troubles. We are actually headed to meet with members of my order, the Order of the Unscorched. Perhaps you have heard of them.
Yeah, trinket collectors. You're always digging in the sand for one dusty relic or another.
Something like that, yes.
Oh, that reminds me. You pay for relics? People find them, trade, barter, that sort of thing?
At times, certainly.
I came across something the other day. And he kind of starts rummaging in his packs. It's a pretty nice ring. I got no use for it, but it seemed kind of important. And he holds it out. And Kristoff, you see that this ring, you recognize it immediately. It's a ring of wood that is sort of shaped to look like vines and leaves, like kind of circling across each other. This is your brother's ring. You've never seen another one like it. And he kind of holds it up. Found it the other day. Kazrin, what do you make of it?
And Kristoff would stand up immediately and he would absolutely lose himself. And in that moment, if you've ever had a moment where you react before your body realizes what you're doing, that sort of heat that comes over you, you're outside of yourself. And it's not necessarily anger so much as it's pure chemical adrenaline. And you're sort of just moving. And that's what happens. And I mean, Kristoff stands up so fast and he pushes this guy over at the shoulders as best he can. And just like, where did you get that ring? Where did you get that ring? And he starts pulling his sword out.
Shade just goes down as you get on top of him. He kind of rolls out of the way, putting his arm up to protect himself, and he's reaching for the javelin that he set aside, kind of bringing it up. And as you say, where did you get that ring? Where did you get that ring? He sort of, I found it. It was out in the desert. And he's sort of like, as you bring out your sword, you feel the point of the javelin sort of prodding your abdomen. And he goes, think twice. This ain't the first time I spilled blood at this oasis.
And Kristoff sort of just, again, just high on adrenaline. This ring is his murdered brother's ring, and this pale-faced, cat-eyed scumbag skulking about at the oasis has it. And Kristoff stupidly pushes his abdomen a little bit into the javelin, and he grabs Shade by whatever collar he has. Actually, no, he grabs his hood. He doesn't unhood him. And he says, I got nothing to lose, freak. That's my brother's ring. And he was murdered. So I'm starting to think maybe you had something to do with it.
How is everyone else reacting as this is happening?
Hey. We can all just calm down here.
Yeah, I imagine that Sander would kind of be pressing his quarterstaff kind of between the two, like trying to create some space in between them. Calm, peace, friends.
I'm going to grab them both. I'm going to lift them both up. One arm in one arm in the other. I'm just going to hold them apart.
The mental image is perfect. So the quarterstaff and Edrick kind of get between Shade and Kristoff, and Shade kind of backs off, and he sort of like kicks out from under Kristoff and comes to his feet, and he's just holding the javelin out. Listen, I didn't know this belonged to anybody. Half the shit in this desert's 2,000 years old. I'm sorry, okay? If you want the ring, if it really belongs to you, then take it. I was just going to trade it for water anyway. Here. And he just tosses it into the sand at your feet, Kristoff, and then holds his javelin up again. Just take it. I had nothing to do with your brother's death. I told you, I found it in the sand.
And Kristoff scoops the ring up in a handful of hot sand that is just in the midst of this oasis, this sort of sand that's creeped in and people have dragged in. He just grabs it with this grass and sand, and he starts storming to the periphery, not away from the oasis, but just like, and he just has it in his hand, and he's beside himself. He has no idea what to do. He's pacing.
In the tussle, kind of Shade's hood has kind of come back a little bit. You see that his hair is sort of pulled back on top of his head. His hair, again, just this stark white, the same color as his skin. It almost like blends into his head. And he kind of like pulls the hood down, and you see him kind of sink a little bit. Oh shit. Oh, that was enough sun for me today. What the hell is his problem?
Sorry about that. I'm sorry. If you could give us any more information about where you found this, or was anything else nearby?
He kind of scoots over to the water and he splashes some cold water on his face, trying to cool himself down. I found it. Let me think. Northeast of here. Near the plateau, actually. Yeah, it was near there. I don't go up on the plateau. I don't go messing with that, but I found it sort of at the base. It was just in the sand. Caught my eyes. I was passing by, stopped and picked it up. Figured it must just be some sort of artifact uncovered by the sandstorms. Figured it'd be good for trading. Sorry, I didn't know it belonged to anybody.
I don't think it's your fault. He's really upset his brother got killed. You're right. You hurt or something?
I'm all right. Just not really built to be in the sun.
Well, thank you for bringing that back. Well, I don't really have a lot to give you, but well, let me see. I kind of looked through my stuff a little bit. I have a gold piece. Would you like a gold piece? I don't. No. Okay. Well,
Sander, tell him how much good gold does you out here.
I just kind of shake my head at Edrick. I'm a little bit embarrassed for him. Just like, no.
Oh, okay. Well,
Just
I mean,
walk down to the corner store, get myself something to eat.
well, I mean, okay. Well, I have a deck of cards. I don't know what
cards.
Yeah, deck of cards. And just I pull out just a simple, gaming card deck.
Can I see it?
Oh yeah. I hand it to him. As I pull it out, though this like silver badge, this 5-pointed star silver badge just kind of like plops out, and I'm like, oh no, not that. Here's your deck of cards, and I just go and I just kind of like put it back into my kind of like side pack. Here you go. I mean, they's all there, I think. I don't know if you want to play a game with yourself.
Are there games you could play? I've never played a game before. I've never seen a deck of cards before.
Oh well, you see, you can play different games and different values have different. Yeah, like games. I think Three Dragons Snap and last one in the castle and just normal games and.
All right. So, all right. Deck of cards. You teach me how to play a couple of them games. I'll forget your friend there tried to stick me with a sword.
Well, I think that's perfectly fair. Wait, we're not playing for money, are we? Because I remember this one time when this happened to me and someone said they didn't know how to play, and then we gambled for stuffs, and then I got taken for everything. And then they said, "Oh, you're too naive, Edrick Meadows." And I said, "No, I'm not too naive. I'm just trying to be nice."
I don't have any money to barter with or gamble with. Just teach me how to play a game, something to pass the time, and we'll be square.
Okay then. What's easy? Oh, well,
Before you begin, I'm sorry. This is important. What were you doing near the plateau? They say it is cursed. Why would you be traveling over there?
Well, been noticing some things. There's green on top of the plateau. Wasn't there before. There's trees up there. Like trees. I noticed it from a distance. I keep wanting to go up there, but I don't have the nerve. I don't know why there's green up there. There ain't green anywhere else, except not here in the oasis. Could be there's fresh water up there, but I think it might be something else.
This is very interesting. Thank you. And I would probably go at this point and just kind of go see what Kristoff is up to, and maybe let Edrick and Holly and Shade learn a game.
Kristoff, what are you doing now that you've kind of excused yourself from the conversation?
Kristoff is doing a classic sulk. He's got, I found some sort of a tree, and I've got my hands on my knees with the ring in both hands, and I'm just spinning it in my fingers. Not sorry yet for anything that I may have done to Shade. Just sort of, he's collateral damage and I don't care, and he deserved it. Like, I'm mad at him for no good reason, but it's a good reason for me. And I'm just sort of looking at the ring, sulking.
Holly, what's going through your head?
Holly understands that there's so much happening that has roots in Sander and in Sonegeist and in Falhast, but nothing more pertinent exists than Kristoff. Just everything is linked to him. Every single place we go, there's something new that he is that his story is wrapped up in, intertwined. So she's sitting here learning this game, this card game that Edrick is teaching Shade. And I imagine that the rule, I'm sure Edrick would take just 20 minutes to explain this very simple rule, and his voice slowly just drowns in a low pass filter as everything except for Kristoff's face is kind of on Holly's mind as she's just trying to read him and try to get a grasp of what's going on inside of his head.
And Sander, what are you doing while Shade learns this game?
I imagine I don't quite dare approach Kristoff. I'm just kind of taking a stroll. I mean, pretending to be taking a stroll, but I'm just kind of watching him and sneaking a glance here and there, and maybe try here and there finding my own tree to sit under as well.
And I think Kristoff would note this. And without looking, still sulking, still just having, like, there are streamers for this pity party.
There's a cake that says sorry about your brother.
Made out of sand.
Yeah.
It's a mud pie.
It's a burger cake that says sorry for your loss. We have to tell that story now, really quick. This is a quick digression. A couple summers ago, when everyone was here visiting, Barker showed up at my house with a cake shaped like a burger for James's birthday, and it said "Sorry for your loss" on it. I just want to put that out there as one of the best things that's ever happened. Okay,
no, the best thing that's ever happened is the lady's face when I had to explain this to her, that what I needed on the cake was "Sorry for your loss" on the burger.
And
she almost didn't make it for moral reasons. I feel
it wasn't like it was a sheet cake with flowers on it. It was a cheeseburger. Like it was a yellow frosting on the top with little sesame seeds.
Sesame seeds. I remember the sesame seeds.
Yeah.
And it was, the text was written in amateur 10 minutes till we close cursive icing. So bad.
That's one of my favorite memories from that trip. Okay, please continue.
So Kristoff would essentially just, without looking, say, Sandy, you can come over here.
And I would probably walk up and say, "Are you going to be okay?"
I guess. I've never been more confused. I don't know how to feel. And that's not normal for me. It's even been hard to be selfish lately, which is also not normal for me.
Were you and your brother close?
Not really. But that makes it worse. Like we should have been. I mean, we when we were kids, we were close, and then I got wrapped up in this, and he tugs at his clerisy uniform, and he began the road of being an arc druid like my father. And I just didn't feel like I was cut out for that. And the truth is, I feel like we didn't spend a lot of time together the year before he died. So
It all makes sense. It makes sense. And if we have time, we should stop by the plateau where Shade says the ring was found. See if we can see anything else. No promises, but we'll see.
okay, yeah. And I'm not really sorry. That guy looks skeezy. But, I'm sorry for what it caused for you and everyone else.
There's no need. No need. And I would probably kind of get up and walk away.
And, as you do that, one of the things that Kristoff does is and you can tell that he's eyeballing in his pack this translated journal that was given to him, payment for essentially, retrieving those stones. And he's been avoiding it. It's weird because Kristoff feels he doesn't know what to do, but he doesn't want to run, but he's running, but he isn't. So he puts the ring on, and then he takes it off and he sort of lets it drop in the grass like that was wrong. And then he digs into the bag and he's sort of looking and he's flipping through cipher, and his brother's journal is so foreign to him, but he gets to the portion that was translated at least partially. And Matt, what would he be able to learn from something like that?
So you open up the journal as well as the codex that Kriplin gave you. And in addition to the cipher itself, you see that he's translated the first page of this journal. This journal that was shipped back home to you after your brother left, specifically for you. You've always assumed it was your brother's journal, his diary. Maybe his ideas for the family once he took over as the patriarch. But you open this up, and your heart almost stops when you read the first line, because it says, "Hey, brother." And you keep reading. Christoph, if you're reading this, it means two things. One, it means I've failed, and now it's your turn. Two, it means you figured out the cipher or paid someone smarter than you to do it. Either way, I'm proud of you, because you've already made it this far. In this book, I've written everything I've learned about the Highlands, the Storm Ravens, the Hollow Bones, the Clerisy, everything you need to know to make it right. What I couldn't do, what I didn't finish, it's on you now. So don't be a baby about it. Keep translating. Keep reading. I'm going to tell you about the Archon of Spirit and why you need to get to it as soon as you can. It's on a place called the Plateau. It's really hard to get to. Keep reading, little brother. And that's as much as is translated.
And Christoph just shakes his head and says, "What a dick."
And that is where we will end our session for tonight.
Oh, nice. Oh, dude, perfect.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really cool. I loved seeing an episode with Sander at a forefront, and we got a lot of awesome Christoph stuff too. But it was neat learning a little bit more about Nate's character.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun, and yeah, super cool. Really, just a lot of good story movement here. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. It was I've missed this so much, and I know we've been putting it off for a couple months, and most of that was my fault because I decided to go on vacation and stuff when we had it planned. But yeah, I just love playing with you guys, and it was great to get back to it. And hopefully, we don't have to wait 2 months again before we can do it. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to throw it to these guys to do their outros, and then we're going to call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us and enjoying the session. We had good viewership turnout, and I appreciated all the fun comments in the chat. I was really enjoying Rob's sports commentary on the Drake encounter. That was great. Also, if you did tune in for my live prep on Friday, you probably noticed that very little of what I prepped actually made it into this game, and it was completely different. Part of that is because I changed a few things as a last-minute decision, and part of it was just going off of these guys and what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go. Nate's decision to go to the Order was one of the smartest things ever, and I was like, I didn't even anticipate that, and so that we just went with that thread because that is so cool, and I wanna meet his Order and see what they're about. So I'm really excited about that. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna go in reverse order this time, and we're gonna start with Barker for the outros.
That's funny that you mentioned just scrapping your plans and going with something completely different at the last minute. That is literally the Barker gaming prep method. You prep something, and then at the last second, you throw it all away, and then just come up with anything new. It doesn't even have to be better than the first thing. No, my name is Barker, and I am 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop, and I love being a provoker. Always have, no matter who the character is, and awesome to play with you, Mike, Nate, Tim as well. And of course, Matt, this is just always phenomenal. So thanks everybody for listening. Head on over to the Absolute Tabletop official group and hang out with us on Facebook, and have a great day. Thanks.
Yeah, I noticed a few people in the chat decrying my use of Drakes because I said 17 times during the prep, I'm not going to put Drakes in this session, even though they're in Sonageist, because we already fought a Drake in session 1, so no Drakes. And I said that. Like, I even pulled a magic card that had a Drake on it, and I was like, no Drakes. And I threw it but I put drakes in there anyway. So people were like, "What the hell? You said no drakes." All right, Mike, go ahead.
I like the drakes. Who doesn't like the drakes? I mean, come on. You know, now Edrick has a sled that he can, you know, go riding down the dunes when he's not busy trying to kill stuff. So, yeah, hi, I'm Mike. I'm with the channel Mike the Piper, and I love this game. I mean, my God. It's so great to get back into it. Can't wait to do it. I think we're doing it this Monday, which is tomorrow. I think we're another like 16-hour session we got tomorrow. So look forward to that.
Yeah, that's the plan. We're all gonna take off work and play Provokers. Yeah.
Yep, that is totally what is not going to happen. But I am looking forward to the next session because it's such a pleasure and a privilege to play in this beautiful world of Erenoth and get killed a lot by it. So that's me, and I'll pass it off to Nate.
Correct.
Oh, hey, I've been paying attention and shit.
My name is Nate. I run the channel WASD20, and it's been a great pleasure to be here. I second Barker's comment that you all should join the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. It's a great place. I hang out there a lot. It's a lot of fun. Great community. And yeah, this is awesome. Can't wait for next time.
Awesome. All right, Tim. Cool. Take us out, buddy.
Take us out. So 3 things that was a master class in DMing this session. The first one was using the drakes, because in a zone like this, in an area, creatures are prominent. So to me, that actually made a lot of sense because it linked the session. So I love that. The second thing was you take small moments and let us make them bigger. So you didn't stage an elaborate set piece. You had us fight the drakes at the campsite, but it became an action set piece because you let us do that. So you went smaller and familiar so that we could make it unusual and bigger. And that is something that I think I need to learn as a DM. And the final thing was you didn't give us answers, the road to answers. So you didn't just say, hey, here's what your brother's journal says. You said, hey, man, let's do this together. Here's the codex, and let's figure this out over sessions. Brilliant stuff. And that's another really cool hack. So those 3 things alone, I was like, putting those in the tool belt, that Mac Click masterclass. So, dude, as always, thanks for running a great game.
Thank you, man. And thanks to these 4 guys for being just the best damn role players I've ever had the pleasure of playing with. It's always a blast. And I hope you guys will all join us for the next session, which I think will probably be titled The Order of the Unscorched, because we're going to meet Sanda's monkly order. Behold the Order of the Unscorched.
Diablo.
Diablo. Belial. Deckard Cain. All right. Enough of that.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Shamalama ding dong. All right, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in. We're a bunch of jackasses, and I really appreciate you all like giving up your Sunday evenings to hang out with us and watch us play some D&D. So thank you, everyone. We hope you tune in next time. Take care. Happy gaming all. And as always, may your pizzas be hot and ready.